Hey, what's happening, everybody? It's me, Robert Phoenix. I am back. Let me see if I can do something different with the camera here. Yeah, there we go. A little more me in the screen. How about that? I love this. Love this background. It's very peaceful, isn't it? How is everybody? It is 6:45 tonight. Actually, 6:46, and it is 8/7, and we're gonna hang out a little bit. Wait for people to start showing up and hanging out in the chat, which is always a cool thing. So if you're here for the first time, welcome to the 11th house of Robert Phoenix. And tonight we're going to talk about astrology, which we do on Sunday night. And we've got some interesting topics to get into tonight. We're going to do a recap of the big stellium. And of course, the energy is still floating around. And we're still dealing with the ramifications of some of the things that happened, particularly with Nancy Pelosi deciding that she was going to become, I don't know, hell on wheels, Maverick, right? She was going to go to Taiwan, formerly Formosa, formerly, I guess it was Taiwan People's, it was the National Republic of China or the Republic of China. And then prior to that, Formosa. And prior to that, who knows? I only go as far back as Formosa. So she was there and she was igniting the ire of the Chinese. And Masaki, our good friend Masaki, passed along an interesting article today, which was by Pelosi going to Taiwan. What she did is she allowed the Chinese to move all their shit into position against Taiwan. So, I mean, people who thought that Nancy Pelosi was doing something independent of her relationship with foreign entities are probably going to need to revisit their relationship with her allegiances, duly noted or otherwise, because I'd say 90% of the politicians that are playing on a national stage, this might even be a low percentage, that they're all in the pockets of some foreign entity, be it a country and or some type of lobby group. Now, I might even go as far as 100%. I might go as far as 100 because almost every single person who is there, Congress, Senate, has had to go through K Street. And one of the big lobbies on K Street is APAC, or some people call it AIPAC. I call it APAC. And that is the lobby for Israel in the United States, APAC. So in order for you, or in order for almost anybody to become worthwhile, elected, to be deemed worthy, that is a lobby. They have to have the K stamp or the seal of approval. So it sets you up right there. So that's almost a 100 across the board. We know that Cynthia McKinney, who was once a congressperson from Georgia, decided that she was not going to accept money from certain groups and was actually speaking out for the Palestinian people in Israel, in that region. And she didn't last very long. So she disposed of her sponsorship, even if she ever had one. I'm not even sure if she ever had one, but that's how the game works, right? I mean, that's just one lobby. There's many other lobbies, and sometimes foreign entities will come through lobbies that represent themselves, just like APAC does. I'm sure, I don't know them chapter or verse, but I'm sure there are lobbies that represent countries or companies too. Saudi Arabia, China, you name it. They've got their boots on the ground in Washington. So people take meetings with lobbyists, they take lobby money. And even though the lobbyists are based in DC, there's a good chance they're representing somebody foreign. So I would get it probably close to about 99%. Maybe there's an outlier. And if they're an outlier, they're not lasting very long. So do you think that Pelosi's trip was indistinct from her relationship? Which no, the answer to that is absolutely not. She lives in San Francisco, and San Francisco has been a beachhead, and California's been a beachhead for Chinese influence really since the 90s, and when Schwarzenegger became governor of California, that really stepped up. And of course, the New Bay Bridge was built by a Chinese company. And in fact, it was clearly stated when they were going to create the bridge that they had to use one of these companies. They couldn't just use an American company. They couldn't use a California company. They couldn't use a Bay Area. They had to have a Chinese company build a Bay Bridge. And that's exactly what happened. So we can see that the influence in California is pretty deep, which would include, obviously, the politicians from that part of the world. And a lot of people know about Dianne Feinstein's relationship with the Chinese. And this is, by the way, I'm not here to knock the Chinese. They're a world power, all right? They're trying to do what world powers fucking do. They're trying to get more power. That's what they're trying to do. And you have other world powers that are trying to get more power. And sometimes they work together and sometimes they don't work together. We're going to take a little bit of a time trip back into 1940. That's going to be part of the show tonight. And I'm going to show you what was going on in 1940, because that's the last time that Uranus was at 18 and 19 degrees. So in 1940, the world is ramping up for the Second World War. Although when I had Christopher Knowles on the show a couple of weeks ago on the Friday show, by the way, check out the Friday show on this channel with the Crimmies. It's a great show. We talk about Paolo Freire, who is a Virgo, by the way. I think he's born, September 21st, maybe September 20th, right around there. I was getting mixed up with Bobby Crimo, who's born right around the same day. They're both kind of popping into my head right around the same time. Anyway, great show. And if you want to learn about how the education system has been hijacked in this country and in other parts of the world, it's a good place to start. I recommend also checking in with James Lindsay's channel. And James Lindsay is a Gemini. And once you start to listen to James Lindsay, you'll understand how Gemini operates, because he has an amazing ability to break down really enormous ideas, which are Sagittarian by nature. And then through the Gemini filter, just, kind of slice and dice them up into their component parts. He's brilliant at it. So if you want a really good understanding about how Gemini works, don't watch Russell Brand and Jordan Peterson, although you'll see two Geminis sort of spinning off into space. I mean, they're good. I mean, you'll learn something about Gemini when you watch those two. But what you'll really learn about Gemini through James Lindsay is the idea to take a big idea, or to take the concept of taking a big idea and breaking it down. The other thing you'll learn about James Lindsay is that he's an atheist. So you get into that Sagittarian Gemini opposition. Sagittarius, of course, can be the big religious or the big philosophical planet influencer, right? And Gemini, not afraid to play the devil's advocate. So, well, what about this? What about this? What about this? What about this part of scripture? This really doesn't fit, does it? Well, let's see. So the world stopped for 7 days. How did that work? Did the continents go flying off its axis and all the water return to the firmament? That's what Gemini does. So check out James. And by the way, Steve and Chris, you get the Sagittarius Gemini opposition right there with them, right? The alchemical connection between our good friends, the Crimmies. So check out Friday's show. That's really worth watching. And then, like, as I said, go hunt down James Lindsay's channel. You'll learn a lot. The other guy you'll learn a lot from is Peter Boghossian, who is James Lindsay's buddy. And Peter Boghossian is a Leo, may even be his birthday or close to it. So a happy solar return to Peter Boghossian. Check out his Street Epistemology series. It's quite good. I played, I think, at least 1 or 2 clips on my Friday show. I might have played one on my Sunday night show here a couple of weeks ago as well. All right. So a few other pieces of business, as I can see in the background. I don't have the chat. I'm not looking directly at the chat, but it's behind the screen. So I can begin to see the chat start to roll. And that means we have some people in here, which is great. And then, so we've got a few more pieces of business. I didn't talk about it last week, but let me talk about it this week. I have a good friend, Christopher Lynch, who, in my estimation, he sells the best CBD that I've had. And I've had a few. It's not like I'm like a connoisseur of CBD. Like, it's not like some people are connoisseurs of wine or I used to be kind of a connoisseur of craft beer before craft beer took off. When I was what, 18, 19 years old, I used to work at this place called Long's Drugs in California. And I became buddies with the guy who ran what they called the beer wall. Well, it's actually the liquor wall, and then the beer was a part of it. So in a lot of cases, right, you would just get people who would order this shit, and they would just order like regular old, Coors, Bud. If they were feeling really adventurous, maybe they'd get Carlsberg or something like that, right? So one day I got my buddy he was older than me. I used to hang out with a lot of older people back then. Anyway, so he showed me the beer catalog. I'm like, well, look at all this beer. Let's order some of this, right? So we started to order all these different beers, and we created a kind of a cool little niche inside of this Long's Drugs I used to work at. And then I started to collect the bottles. So of course they were empty. And then I was like, okay, well, where else can I find some of these cool beers? At that time, they were all imported. I mean, you could get some interesting regional beers from the Midwest. I think what did I have, like Cold Spring Export, which I think was from Minnesota. Some of the local beers. Like at that time, Rolling Rock was not a big deal. So when I found Rolling Rock, oh wow, this is pretty interesting, right? India Pale Ale, which I think was related to the Rolling Rock. So I found a liquor store in actually was it a liquor? Yeah, it was kind of a liquor store, convenience store on Broadway in San Francisco. And if you were underage, they would sell you booze in San Francisco. So I was like 19. I'd go there on the weekends with my friends, and I'd go through their cooler. I go, oh, I haven't tried this. Then eventually we found another place in San Mateo, which had a really excellent selection of these imported beers. So I became kind of a connoisseur of those beers at that age. And it showed in my midsection. I can tell you that right now, even though I was young and I can metabolize. But as far as CBD goes, I've tried a few different brands. And I got to tell you, the one brand that really has worked for me, and especially, I'm going to get right into it, the gummies, is True Hemp Science. And this is a company that my friend Christopher Lynch has been running for a couple of years now. I've known Christopher since around 2014 or 2015, and he was not doing the True Hemp Science stuff at that time, although he had an intense interest around health. So it manifested ultimately in his pursuit of CBD. And I began to have some of his early samples of his CBD back in 2017, 2018. 2018 is when I really started to experience the CBD. He would send me stuff in the mail. I'm like, wow, man, this is really terrific. So that was 4 years ago, and he's up and running. He's got a shop in Austin. So if you're interested in CBD as something that's an alternative to other, anti-inflammatories like Tylenol. I've been talking about Tylenol last week or 2 weeks ago, acetaminophen, which is not good. And not only does it help you with your pain, but it also dulls your empathy. So if you want to check out, just do a bunch of acetaminophen. It's also not good for your liver, right? So this is an alternative to that world. And he's got a bunch of CBD products for a number of different uses, and he lists them, right? What they're good for. You can get CBD without any THC. He has some of that. So if you're just interested in that, and he also has CBD with very low levels of THC, right? So there's that. He also specializes in these gummies, these sleep gummies. And I take one a night, and they work like an absolute charm. There's CBD for your pet, and he's got some other products on there as well. So and if you go in there and you get his phone number, you call him up, you can talk to him. He'll talk to you, and he'll tell you what this is good for, what that's good for, the potency. He tells you how it works in your brain. Of course, he's not a physician, but in this world, he's about as close to an unofficial apothecary as you'll get when it comes to CBD. So if you go here, and if you're listening, I guess you're not going to be listening, you're just watching here. This is the link, truehempscience.com/ref/23. You can see that right there on the screen, right? You can put that into your browser and then just click through. If you spend $100 and type in the word, it's a code, 15, that's 15, capital MINS, that's short for 15 mins. You'll get free product. He'll send you free product on top of any order $100 and above. And if you spend $150, you get it all free. You get the shipping free. So again, one of the reasons why I like to promote Chris's product is because, number one, he's an American, and that doesn't mean I wouldn't promote somebody else's product who wasn't outside the country. I'd be happy to do that if I believed in the product and I like the person, right? But he is an American, and we're trying to, keep our American businesses rooted here, right? He's a Main Street guy, right? So I'm trying to, help promote Main Street here with Chris. That's number one. Number two, he's got a good product. Number three, it works because we've been doing this now since March. So it'll almost be 6 months in September. And I get very positive feedback from the people who have sampled this product, right? So all boats rise here, right? This is the idea. So anyway, if you're interested in that, go check him out. He's a good guy. You can talk to him. He'll tell you all kinds of interesting things. Okay, the other piece of business that there's a couple of pieces here that I do want to promote. As some of you might know, I'll be doing an event here in October with David Palmer, aka the Leo King, and some other interesting guests and facets to be announced, TBA. I think we're going to have, I think my buddy Nicholas is showing up. I'm going to be talking about TikTok tonight. I'm going to be talking about Gen Z and astrology. And he's a young astrologer who has really taken off, and he's become kind of a big deal on TikTok, although they're not listing him as one of the bigger influencers, which I'm surprised about. But anyway, he's going to come, and he might give us some insight into his astrological journey and his process and where he is as well. But it won't be solely astrology. It'll be a lot of astrology, but there's other things we're going to do, and we'll have some fun. Anyway, if you're interested in attending, and we got some dates coming up here, some very important dates. So there's David, the Leo King. Just talked to him the other day. It's going to be happening in Kerrville, which is just south of me here. And it's right on the Guadalupe River. And let's pray for some rain so that river is nice and full by the time people get here, or at least as full as it can get. And the dates on the event are the 14th through the 17th. We officially start on the Friday, the morning of the 14th. We'll do the Friday forecast live. We've done that every year, and the people who have attended have been the guests, and they're some of the best shows I've done because the guests are amazing. The people that attend are amazing. They're smart, they're funny, they're weird, they're memorable. And every year it's a new batch and a new set of epiphanies. So we'll do that on Friday. We got meet and greets on Friday. We've got meals we're going to be sharing. The hotel will prepare the meals. And the food is good, really good food. We've got Tex-Mex, Hill Country style, Texas style on Friday. We've got some surf and turf on Saturday. We got a brunch on Sunday. And then I know it may sound a little heavy, but we're going to have, this is an area that's been influenced by German culture and cuisine. And some places can do German culture and cuisine really right. And this is one of the places. We had it last year because I wanted something different for the event. And the chef, who had never prepared it for a group, was so excited because he'd learned how to do this, from the people that used to own that place, right? So it's changed hands. He was part of, the changing of the guard there, and he stayed on. And they taught him everything in terms of German cooking. It was so successful with our event. Now they've made it a regular staple on the menu that people can choose from when they go here to book their events. So we planted a flag, and we get to revisit that ground again this year. Delicious food. Like I said, a Sunday brunch. You get snacks for all 3 days. You get coffee. You get tea. I'll scroll down here. They got a great pool there. Like, it's much bigger. This is a much smaller image of the pool. They actually have another pool which overlooks the Guadalupe River. It's off property, so there are 2 pools. There's what else do they have? They have a jacuzzi there as well, right? It's a very cool place. On Friday nights, they have a bar on the other side of our space, which is right here. We always have this space right there. And we go there and we hang out with the locals on Friday night. They usually have a pretty good shit-kicking country and western band, pool table, right? You get to mingle with the locals. If you bring a cowboy hat, you can find a reason to wear it. And so that's happening on Saturday night. David is going to, kick out the electronic jams. We'll be doing some speaking and talking about some astrological items and predictions, and we're trying to get into this idea of the Aquarian age, which we are rapidly headed towards, like a photon fucking torpedo. That's how fast it's coming. And I'm going to talk about that tonight because it was a topic of conversation that I got into last week with the great Nish over on her channel, which actually was a Skype chat that she then turns into a podcast and puts out and streams over her podcast network. And it was a great talk. And one of the things that I was getting into, I was exercising my Scorpio rising, and it was the dark version of Aquarius. I'm going to get into some of that tonight because not everybody was there for that show, and not everybody was there. I covered it again on my weekday show. And I would say maybe 10% of you guys show up in kind of that zone. So I'll get to cover it again here tonight. And there's some things that I think you probably want to hear about. And it gets into sort of the eradication of history, culture, and time. So we're going to talk about that. I'll make sure that's in here tonight. So we're hopefully we'll bring up some positive stuff about the Aquarian age while we're there. And we got a bunch of other activities that will manifest and plan. Here's the thing that you want to pay attention to, right? So right now, this is the cost of 3 days. You've got me, you've got David, we've got some guest speakers, we have some events planned. We have this ecstatic music event that we're going to put together with David on Saturday night. And you get your meals, all that's the price. The rooms are separate. You have to book through the hotel, and there's a number there. It's right here at the top with the hotel right there. And you can just tell them what group you're part of. If you want to share a room, you can go over to my Telegram page. 11th house astrology and see if you can track down somebody who wants to share a room. We've had people that have shared rooms and they become best friends. We've had people that have shared rooms and they've wanted to stick a knife in each other's back. No, I'm just kidding about that. We've always had a positive experience around the sharing of rooms. Trust me, I wouldn't do it if it wasn't positive. So that's available. Now, you want to pay attention here because we've got 8 days, and the price is going to go up. So I've been incentivizing people to try to get in. It'll go up a total of $89, right? So you save $89. For some of you, that's half a tank of gas. And then if you somehow need to bail out, you have until the 15th of September, in which case I will keep $100 of your fee, right? That's just the way it goes, but you can still split. After the 15th, you're in. And the reason why, food has to be ordered and all this stuff, right? So you're in. Our speakers are in, things are locked in. After the 15th, no refunds. So that's the way it goes. All right. Okay. So I got that out of the way. Beautiful river there. And let's get into tonight's show. So let's see, who do we have here in chat? Who's in chat tonight? Who do we have? Let's see. Susie Gemini. What's going on, Susie? We got 111 in chat. Cool. Who is that? Lala HK. There's my man Benito. Benito was one of the stars of the show last year. Now, I knew Benito before I addressed him and said, hey, come on up and be a part of the show. And I knew Benito would be a star because Benito is a very unique character. And I got to say, he did not let me down. Tom Jordan, there's my man. What's going on, Tom? Good to see you. As always, Sony in the house. We all hope you're doing well, Sony. And one of these days, we'd love to see you up here. Let's see. Susie Gemini says her mom was born in February 1940. Sandra Yoakum, kiss, kiss, la la. All right, we like it. You're getting a little touchy-feely here in the chat. The Crimmies were great. I agree, Mazume, as always. Mickey King, there she is. What's going on, Mickey? I hope you're doing well. CC Jones is here. Fran, always a pleasure. Let's see. Ryan, the introspective woodworker, he's here with us tonight after taking, I think, last week off. Good to see you, Ryan. JJ, yes, another Virgo. Virgos rule. Poor Virgos. I have to say, Pisces and Virgo are the most misunderstood signs in the zodiac. I'll throw Scorpio in there too. I think Scorpio is very misunderstood. I think Scorpio gets a very bad rap. Very bad rap. I'll take another sign that I think is underrated. I think Cancer is a very underrated sign. Every Cancer I've said this before, every Cancer I've run across is really soulful. They're soulful people. You know, they feel, I dig both Cancer men and women. I dig them. And I've said this before, the only caveat with Cancer is they know the value of a dollar. I'll leave that right there. Carol Askew, what's going on, Sister Carol? Good to see you. Diane Evans, seems like a lot of sheared off in the earthquake on the Bay Bridge. That was the first earthquake. That was the first bridge. Yeah, that was pretty heavy. I mean, basically, it just buckled, right? I mean, that's exactly what happened. Where they had, I think, more of an issue than that was the Embarcadero, which they eventually had to tear down. Let's see, Metamedi, what's going on, Michael? Mazak, look who's here. My internet connection is unstable. All right, well, why is that? I don't know. Let's see. Anna Sophia checking in. Hi, Anna. Good to see you. Always a pleasure. Sandrine's Vox Services. James is a genius. Jem here. We love to see it, but he is now banned from Twitter. You know, because he used groomer, right? Oh, that's and he won't apologize either. I mean, that's what they do. They get you to apologize on Twitter. Well, all you have to do is remove that offensive tweet. He won't do it. Good for him. I love James. So The next time the Crimmies are on. So James has this idea that Marx and the Marxists are actually Gnostics. And they're trying to impose a version of Gnosticism on the rest of us. I think he's correct. I think he's correct in a lot of ways. But we're going to try to really, really untangle that and see if we can find if there's a more, how do I say this, a more pure version of Gnosticism that exists outside of the corrupt. It's like we're doing a double Gnosticism thing, right? Because Gnosticism is like, this is a corrupted copy of the world, which I really do believe now that where we're living, it is a corrupted copy. I didn't feel that way prior to, I don't know, 2000. Prior to 2000, I didn't feel like we were living in a corrupted copy of the world. After 2000, it really started to go in that direction. Particularly after 2001, it really, really started to go in that direction. And I think we're there now. But, maybe what we're talking about with Marxism and Gnosticism is a corrupted version of Gnosticism, which talks about a corrupted version of the world. So we'll get into that with the Crimmies. That might be really good. Let's see who else we have. Kabuki Theater. Oh, yes. Nobody trusts Russell Brand. Are you kidding me? Nobody trusts him. Yours truly. In fact, I actually had a video on my channel where I was talking about something, and I used one of Russell Brand's videos, and I think his people got after me. And I had to take the fucking video down. That was a long time ago. I don't play his videos. Let's see. Not anymore. Who else do we have? Nevad 17 Astrology. Nevad, I sent out an email because I couldn't find you on my email list. So I sent out a group email that signed up for the course. And I hope you got it. And I'm still fulfilling some of those commitments there. So you're on. There's my man, Robin. Didn't Brand mesh with Katy Perry? Robin, he was officially her handler. Russell Brand was officially Katy Perry's handler. Let's just, say it like it is. That's what he was doing. Let's see, who else do we have here? Yes, Peter, their grievance says, yeah, these guys are doing great work. And then who's the other one? Helen Pluckrose. She's the third part of that trinity with the grievance. Great stuff. Amanda Fox is here. What's going on? I am doing well, Amanda. Thanks for asking. Let's see. Who else do we have? Ed Lane. Beautiful, Ed. We're glad you're here. Illis J. I think they were married. They were for a minute. For a Bengali minute. I think I remember watching them like ride an elephant or something in India. Their India thing was a very big deal. Let's see. Diane. Did I say hi yet? Russell Gill is here. What's going on, Russell? Good to see you. Welcome. Couchka. Is that how I say it? Couchka. Yeah, it looks like we have is that a Daffy Duck? Little symbol there, little icon. Cool. Was that Daisy Duck? Is that Daisy Duck? That might be Daisy Duck. I love Daffy Duck. He was funny as hell. Let's see. Who else do we have? Michelle on Wheels. You remember Long's Drugs was cool. Long's Drugs was a regional drugstore in California, owned and operated by the Long family. And I worked there. Michelle on Wheels, I'm going to get to your email after the show tonight. I'm going to break it down. There she is, the lovely and talented one. Joan S. SL Sully is here. Hi, SL Sully. Tondar. Always love saying Tondar. Saturday morning cartoon. Kabuki Theater, who I think I mentioned. Yeah. JJ and I connected on the astrocartography side. One of my specialties, I have to say. I love it all. I love doing readings. Let's see. Who else do we have? Love Light Energetics. Played the yacht rock on my friend's $30,000 jet ski last weekend. Surround speakers. Love it. So I've been adding to the yacht rock list. I know he's like, when the fuck is this guy going to start to talk about astrology. I'm going to talk about astrology right now. Right now. You know why? I realized that I have Neptune opposing my sun. This is why I'm into the yacht thing. I'm totally into the yacht thing because I have Neptune opposing my sun. It's a great justification, isn't it? For Neptune sun opposition. So I changed the I thought I changed the hold on a second. Oh, I can't play this. I thought I changed the thumbnail. So I'll take you through my list. I've been adding to the list. You know, Scorpio rising, I get obsessed with things. This is what happens with me. I fucking get obsessed sometimes. So not only do I get obsessed with yacht, I'm trying to find things that are outside of the genre, right? They're outside the genre. So you can see my list here. You get a lot of the standards, right? A lot of standards. Rupert Holmes, Michael McDonald, Carpenter's Al Stewart, Bobby Caldwell, Paul Davis, Dyer Hall, John Oates. I slip in a little Chardet, right? It's like sign of things to come. And then we're getting a little bread. It don't matter to me. I love that tune. Atlanta Rhythm section, Doobie Brothers, Robert Palmer, Boss Gags, George Benson, right? These are all the anchors. They're the anchors of yacht. I'm not sure how that sounds. I got a little, how do I say this one? A little redneck yacht with Dolly Parton and Kenny Rogers, Islands in the Stream. I love that tune, right? This is okay. So now this is where I go, okay, I gotta take it down. You got to go a few levels deeper here on the yacht. So I start to bust out the Larson Fighting Band. Well, Dan Fogelberg, Tim Weisberg, the Power of Gold, generally considered yacht. Sea Level, That's Your Secret. A little bit busy, but still yacht. Got George Duke, Average White Band. I get into some obscure like 80s stuff here from the West Coast. Heat, Craig Runke, Pages, Lee Ritenour with Eric Tagg. Really great tune, like total yacht. We got the Commodores. You can't have yacht without the Commodores now, can you? Or Sail On. Bill Withers, Samantha Sang. Obscure track here, Mark Jordan, Margarita. Let me tell you, that's some fine yacht. Jerry Rafferty, Dancing in the Moonlight, King Harvest. Got to have that. Some more Hall & Oates, Steely Dan, always tasty on the yacht. A little airplay. That's David Foster and Jay Graydon. As soon as the yacht season is over, I'm going to have Jay Graydon on the show. And we're going to do a Friday show with Jay Graydon. We're going to talk about music. We're going to talk about yacht. We're going to talk about this whole scene. I'm so looking forward to that. He doesn't know it yet, but it's going to happen. Chicago, Wishing You Were Here. This is live with the Beach Boys doing the backup vocals. Not to be missed. Chilliwack, or Chilliwack, as they say in Vancouver. Of course, had to put in some Orleans, Dance With Me. Okay, Southern Cross. People kept saying, when are you going to put Southern Cross in? Croswell's Nash. That's yacht. Isn't it yacht? I said, yes, it's yacht. It's in. Even though I don't like Crosby or Stills, but I do like Nash. By the way, I was kind of a neighbor of David Crosby for a while in California. We lived in the same town. I would never see him, but my mother would always see him. I saw the David Crosby again today. Jesus, he looks like a hippie. He looks scroungy. She would always say that when she would see him. Let's see, little Pablo Cruz. All right, now here we go. She's Gone, Hall & Oates. We're going to do Imaginary Lover, Atlanta Rhythm section, 2 times there. I discovered this guy, Frankie Blue. Great tune. Now we're going deeper. There's Deep Yacht, and then there's Deeper Yacht. Good night and good morning, Hall & Oates. I think it's from the Baked Beans record. It's great. It's a great tune. Then I found this amazing track by El Chicano, I'm in Love with You. I played it for Michelle on Wheels. She's one of my yacht filters. I got 3 yacht filters. I've got Michelle on Wheels. I've got Dr. Joan, and then I have Yacht Boy, also known as Johnny Cruz. So I run some of this stuff. And even Michelle on Wheels, she was like, thumbs up on the El Chicano, right? And then this weekend, I added Cool and the Gang, Summer Madness. If I could play this tune right now without getting a strike, I would do it. It is so fucking cool. instrumental. Then we got You Are My Starship, Norman Connors. Now, this theoretically should be the thumbnail. I made it as my thumbnail for the list because it is about as yacht as it gets. Little Herb Alpert, Rise. I think, who was this? Was this Cece or was it Wendy Says? Requested Donald Fagen. I'm going to be playing that probably sometime this week. Bigger Than Both of Us, Daryl Hall, Janos, Maria Muldaur, been at the Oasis, right? Another one, El Chicano, We've Only Just Begun, the instrumental version of the Carpenters song. Oh my God, it's great. El Chicano, way underrated band. Nicolette Larson, a lot of love. It is definitely on the outside. And then I found this, the Roberta Flack song, Feel Like Making Love. I found the Roy Ayers version. I had to throw it in there. It is some cool, tasty yacht. And we ended all with Summer Breeze, George Benson, and Eldra. Apparently, I got one unavailable video. I don't know what that is. But you've got 89 yacht tracks, deep yacht. From stuff that you know and love from yesteryear to stuff that you have not discovered, but will and enjoy. All right, who else do we have? Let's see. Sierra Nevada started here in Forest Ranch and Garage. Our kids play together. Good people, now wealthy. That's a great story. So Sierra Nevada came up through. So when I was a kid, the big local beer in the Bay Area that was the true one and only craft beer was Anchor Steam. Anchor Steam was the beer. If you wanted to go to a seafood restaurant, Anchor Steam was your go-to. And all of a sudden, Sierra Nevada popped in out of nowhere, and it just started to dominate. And Sierra Nevada, known for their Christmas ale, I think they have a porter, and of course, their Sierra Nevada Pale Ale, very hoppy. If you like a hoppy beer, a bitter pale ale, that's your brew. Cool. I'm glad they stayed humble. Sandra said my dad had a beer collection displayed on the wall next to our pool table. Had a party with my punker boyfriend. He lasted, sadly. The beer did not. I don't know how to interpret that, but I'm assuming, are you still with the punk rock boyfriend? That would be interesting. So did you become a punk rock girlfriend? See, I ran into this problem when I had this girlfriend, and she was like the first real love of my life. And she's the first real love. You're going to connect with a girl when you're like 19 years old. I was 19 at the time. And I was at my junior college, and we had a hill that looked down. It was in San Mateo Junior College or City College. Great view of the Bay Area. Right outside the library, that a sloped hill with grass, and people would go there and take a little journey, little journey break, right? So we'd go out there, and we were hanging out, me and my buddy, and here's this gal, and she's taking a little journey break, a little Puff the Magic Dragon, and she said, "Hey, you want some?" I'm like, "Hey, this girl's pretty cool. Yeah, she's pretty cute." So we did a little Puff the Magic Dragon. I got her phone number. And then the first night we went out, we went to San Francisco. And then let's just say it was another iteration of Puff the Magic Dragon, but a little bit different. And I remember I lost my car, but it was the best time losing my car, right? Because, people are like firing up the pheromones, and we're puffing the magic dragon sort of a little bit differently. And so the losing of the car wasn't a big deal. It was fun. And then she wound up becoming my girlfriend. Now the challenge here, she was an Aries, got to talk astrology. She was an Aries, sun of my 5th house. See how this happens? I was, it was like instant, right? 5th house, Aries, instant, got to go. When I met her, she was kind of yachty, although she was coming at it more from the sort of avocado mafia yachty. You know what I mean? Jackson Brown, Poco, Eagles, She loved Dan. I was fucking jealous of Dan Fogelberg. Okay. I was jealous. You could just tell, like, Dan Fogelberg was her dude. I'm like, can we listen to something else? I'm not into this Dan Fogelberg guy. And I really wasn't into that music either. To this day, I still can't really listen to Jackson Browne. The Eagles, not my thing. People put Poco on their yacht list. Poco's not on my yacht. Yeah, it's okay. But I was really into like weird shit, punk rock, new wave, electronic music, all that stuff. And she wasn't into it. I remember one time me, her brother, her sister, her brother's ultimately fiance and then wife, and her, we all went to this club. And everybody's having a good time except for her. But by the time the relationship was over, she was so fucking new waved and punked out. Short cropped hair, right? She had the look. She looked like kind of a Nicaraguan version of Pat Benatar. That's how she looked. So she had gone through this total transformation by hanging out with me. I mean, total transformation. I mean, by the time the relationship is over, she's like into women. That's how much she was transformed. Like, whoa, okay. You went all the way there. You went from granola and Dan Fogelberg to taking a walk on the wild side. Okay, I got to tip my cat. We stayed friends, and she was actually a really great person. So she became the punk rock girl. And then you know what happened to me? I eventually kind of transitioned out of that. But I didn't listen to Dan Fogelberg or Jackson Browne. All right, who else do we have here? Let's see. Still fearful of THC. Is that a rhetorical question? Still fearful of THC. I think medical marijuana is fine. I think it's fine. I think that's how it should be used. That's just my opinion. Medical marijuana, grow your own. You want to do that? Have at it. I am not into the commercialization or the mass corporatization of cannabis. Nope, not for it. I don't want to. Decriminalized, sure. Medicalized, yes. I don't want kids getting high. I'm sorry, I don't. That's just one of my prerogatives here because it can really fuck up people's lives. You got to be ready for it. It's a medicine. It's a medicine. All right, who else do we have? Let's see. Denise Walker. Hi, Denise. Hello there. So, Nevada, I hope you got my message. And feel free to send me an email because I did send out a group message. Yes. Let's see. Lewis Walden's here. What's going on, Lewis? How's the market down there? Meow, meow. Leo King is awesome. David is an interesting character and a great astrologer and a friend. So Nevada, let's see. You got to email me here, Nevada. Let me do this. How do I do this? Nevada, here, go to my website right here. Hold on. I gotta settle this up here because I sent out an email to a bunch of people on the list. So let me do this. So Nevada, here's what I want you to do. We're going to settle this in real time right now because I want you to be satisfied. Let me see this. Where are we? Let's go here. Right there. Is that it? No. Oh, right here. Okay. So Nevada, there's a couple ways that you can get a hold of me, right? So let me show you. And by the way, this goes for anybody that if you need to get a hold of me, see that number? You can call that number right there, right? Call that number. You get a hold of me. You can also, and let me show you, if you want to get a reading with me, let me show you another way to get a hold of me. And by the way, Nevada, I looked up your email. Well, I looked up your name in my email. I couldn't find you. That's why I sent out a group email. But if you want to get a reading, this is right here, right? And it shows you how to get in touch with me because I'm overwhelmed with email. So there's a couple different ways, right? There's the number right there. Boom. Yep, right there. And then what else we have? Telegram, you can reach out to me on Telegram. It's right there. And that's been especially helpful for people who are international because I've been able to work with them. And on Signal, right there. Boom. So Navad, I tried to find your email. I couldn't find it. I sent out a group email. Apparently you didn't get it. But there you go. There's your options. And I hope you reach out to me. Thank you. Okay. Got to make sure, right? Got to keep the customer satisfied, do the best of my ability. All right. Why don't we get into the show today? And let's talk about the aftermath of the Great Conjunction. And I'm sure everybody had their own experiences. The Great Triple Conjunction, Mars, Uranus, and the True Node. Why don't we bring up the chart of the moment and we can get a handle on where we are astrologically. Because Mars is beginning to separate now. Let me just do this. Yeah, Mars is at 22. So it's moved over and crossed over Uranus, as they say. Let's do this. Uranus. Let's do this. Let's do Where I Live. A reasonable facsimile. All right. Let's do the chart of the moment. We'll look at where we are. Okay, we got Aquarius on the ascendant, 4 degrees. So when did we start? We started about an hour ago. So we probably started right at the edge of Capricorn, probably about 28 Capricorn. Let's take a look at Mars. We're tracking Mars now. So there's Mars. It's crossed over the True Node, crossed over Uranus, and moving forward, boldly moving forward as Mars is wont to do. Next stop, it's going to be in Gemini, and I believe it's in Gemini. Is it the 22nd or 23rd? We'll find out. And then it's going to be in Gemini for a long time. We're going to have Mars in Gemini until February of next year. That's how long, right? Because it's going to go forward. And on the 31st of October, Halloween night, Mars goes retrograde. That'll be interesting, right? So get ready for a lot of hectic energy. Mars in Gemini is incredibly restless. I have no doubt. You know what's really interesting is like last week, some weird shit happened with travel, with on the ground travel. Okay. We had during that Mars Uranus conjunction, we had the woman from Indiana who's the GOP rep who got into a car crash. She's dead. The person who drove the car that I guess they went head first into each other, that person's dead, and everybody in her car is dead. To me, that's Mars Uranus, right? That is like crazy, uncontrollable, damaging energy. Now, this person is a GOP rep. Like they need to vote. So who's going to step in and, you know, and it could be one of those votes that could be significant if you believe in that thing. Because now that person, not there, gone. That's one. There was another crash in LA as crazy, right? Like this flaming crash in LA. And then there is Anne Hetch, who's a Gemini, right? I think she's a Gemini rising. Is that right? Or Gemini? I think Anne Hetch is a Gemini. And she went through somebody's window. her front window with her car. So there were at least 3 major car accidents that were trackable, 2 that were connected to, well, I wouldn't call the GOP rep a celebrity, but she's somebody of note. Let me see who that is. I don't want to be vague here. I don't like being vague. Here, let's do this. Okay, so the woman's name is Jackie Walorski. She was killed in a car crash. That was 3 days ago. Mars, Uranus, like there was some crazy fucking car crashes last week, and it almost feels like Mars hitting Uranus is like an accelerator. You know, it's like having your foot taped down onto the accelerator. When I was a kid, I used to play with Hot Wheels, and we had these things called superchargers, and it was like these wheels that were padded, and your car would go through it, and it would hit it, you know, like, and then shoot it off, and then go faster. This is what Mars Uranus conjunction felt like a supercharger. And some people were in the wrong place at the wrong time. So she was killed in a car crash with her staffers. She was 58, and she was in an SUV traveling northbound when it collided with another car just after 12:30 p.m. So it wasn't even, they weren't coming home from the club. All 3 occupants in the vehicle, Walorski, her district director, Zachary Potts, only 27, communications director, Emma Thompson, 28, died as a result of their injuries. Potts was driving the Toyota RAV4. Siegel said, and all occupants involved in the crash were wearing seatbelts. And then Edith Schmucker was the person driving the other vehicle. It was a Buick LeSabre. And she is dead. Pronounced dead. All 4 of them dead. What sign was Jackie Walorski? Let's just check here. Let's just see what her sign was. By the way, she's Leo, August 17th. So that would put her son at what, around 20, 22 Leo, 20, about 20, 25 Leo, I think. 24 Leo, pretty sure 24 Leo. That means that Uranus and Mars was squaring her sun. It also means that Saturn was opposing her sun. Big T square. You know, that's rough. Born in South Bend, you know, married. I don't know if she has any kids or not, but you know, it's always, you know, hard when people pass away, period. But it's like sudden like that, and leaving people, and you've got the parents of the other kids or the other people in the car. You know, I guess it was either foul play or their time, or, you know, their name was written in the book, I guess. Because I don't think Edith Schmucker was on a mission to ram head first. So I've seen some people talk about that, by the way, that Edith Schmucker, although they didn't know it was Edith Schmucker, was, you know, on some kind of a death trip to take this woman out. Because we live in a time now that it's so conspiratorial that when you see something like this, it always gets you like, wow, it's a political, anytime a political death happens, you always think of what's this person doing? What were they working on? What did they know? Right? Like that always goes through your head. You know, was this strategic? Just the way it is. Was it? I think your time is probably up. Who knows what happened with Edith Smucker? I don't know. But she's gone. She's gone. Jackie Walorski. And it happened right around the same time as the Alex Jones thing. Now, Alex Jones, we haven't talked about. We could talk about Alex Jones. Let's get back to the other stuff, though. I want to go back to the chart of the moment. So there's Saturn retrograding 20. I think it goes back to 19, if I'm not mistaken. And eventually it moves forward. So how do we interpret Saturn in the retrograde position? Well, we're in a time now where everything outer planet-wise, with the exception of Uranus, which has to do with an inner sign, although in this capacity, it is in a deconstructive. It is in a deconstructive aspect. Uranus and Taurus is de-evolutionary. That's what it is. Anyway, I remember I wanted to talk about World War II. I'm gonna get back to this. World War II, thanks to Chris Knowles, it is astute observation, is really a part of World War I, which I agree with. They're part of the same war. And they have this interregnum in between where they decide to throw the Depression into the mix. What a time to be alive, huh? Anyway, so we're going to go back and look at 1940 because that's the last time that Uranus was at 18 degrees Taurus. So we're going to try to break that down a little bit. But the Saturn retrograde here in Aquarius, we're starting to see some things, right? Like, for instance, gas prices. Do they rule Saturn and Aquarius? No, they don't. But now we have Biden, who is, when we think of Saturn, we think of the corporatocracy. We think of government. Saturn rules government. Saturn, Capricorn, 10th house, they're all governmental. So now they're doing things like, taking credit for gas prices going under $4. Big fucking deal. Big fucking deal, right? So what? Who cares? They were a lot cheaper 2 years ago. You're not taking credit for a whole lot, but that's a Saturn retrograde moment. Like, they're going to jump on that. They're also talking about, this definition of a recession and redefining that. Again, that's a retrograde motion. We have Neptune retrograde in Pisces, and that's a lot. It has a lot to do with redefinition. When we think of retrograde, we think of the, kind of the root there, the suffix, the re part. So redefining. And then once they redefine the definition, they lock the Wikipedia page. So we're seeing a lot of this retrograde motion in terms of what's going on with the world around us. It's interesting because Carrie Lake had an election in Arizona, and I guess she declared herself winner. By the way, she's a Leo, and she declared herself the winner. And then eventually they did declare her a winner over her Republican rival, who, for all intents and purposes, from what I know, is another rhino. But who knows? Carrie could be a rhino. I don't know at this point, right? I just, who knows with all this shit. She certainly talks a good game. Watching the cows sort of run off in the distance together. What a pastoral moment. The cows in the failed cornfield across the way. But even that's kind of there's a lot of retrograde around Carrie Lake, right? So one of the things that came out about Carrie Lake is that, well, she voted for Obama. Well, she voted for Obama. She's a traitor. She's a rhino. She's a plant. She's controlled opposition. A lot of fucking people voted for Obama. And I'm not saying she isn't. I'm just saying a lot of people voted for Obama. It was the thing to do. It was the thing to do. Go back to 2008. There was Obama, shiny, brand spanking new, articulate. It was America's time to bury the hatchet and say, we're ready for a black president. And look at you, you're so articulate, and you went to the best schools, and you're married, and you have 2 kids. Little did we know. I'm doing a little trumpet. Little did we know that narrative would be revisited a few years later on all counts. But back in 2008, it made sense, right? And who was he up against? John McCain, the Maverick. John McCain's a fucking maverick. He was also up against Ron Paul, who got criminally shut out and thwarted in his attempt to educate the American people about what the hell was going on with war, right? Wars that never end, centuries of aggression, NAFTA, the Federal Reserve, most sane candidate on that platform. Well, he was a libertarian. Now he's a Republican. See, he's a sellout. I mean, everybody's purity of intent is questioned at some point along the way. We don't live in an ivory snowflake world. We just don't. And for people who retain their innocence amidst all of this in an enlightened way, I bow to you. You are doing an amazing job of retaining the core of who you are, the core of all that is amidst all of what's happening around us. Fantastic. And I know some people are like that, and they're kind of amazing, actually, in a rare breed. You know, it reminds me of this time when, let me go back over here for a second. Let's do this. I'll show you why people, in a lot of ways, voted for Obama. This is one of the first images that I saw of Obama. Oh, look, it's almost 14 years ago to the day tomorrow. This is one of the first images that I saw of Obama. And a lot of people saw this image. A lot of people saw this image. And he looks a little more chunky, beefy. Now, you know, we look at that image and go, did they fucking Photoshop his head onto that? Right? Like, is that really his body? Back then, we didn't do these kinds of things. But now I'm looking at it, is that really Obama? Anyway, for the sake of argument here, we're going to say it's Obama because that was the image we saw. And that was the third. It was the third post on my website about astrology that I did in 2008. And I focused on this picture specifically. At that time, nobody really knew much about him. I'd run across a chart that somebody had done. I don't think it was Lois, right? It was one of these kind of old doms of astrology. And this person had Obama as a Neptune, let's see, Scorpio rising. She had Obama as Scorpio rising with Neptune in the first house. That was my first astrological look. Now, a lot of other astrologers, well, he's an Aquarius rising, which would put his so-called Leo sun in the sixth house. But this was before anybody was really doing charts on Obama. And I found this one chart, so I ran with Neptune in Scorpio, with Scorpio on the. I actually feel like that's more appropriate, by the way. So I looked at this image, and for me, it was archetypal because nobody really knew who he was. It says U.S. Senator Barack Obama on Oahu today for 9 days of rest and relaxation. His first break since presumably clinching the Democratic presidential nomination in June. Nobody really knew much about him. And when you look at this image, he's like emerging from the ocean, right? He's emerging from our collective unconscious. And that's why I thought this image was so incredibly powerful. When you look at him, he's kind of glistening and new. He's like the new man. That's what Obama is representing here. And because he's emerging from the ocean, right? He's emerging from this a collective field. You could essentially project anything you want onto him. And even in this like Piscean metaphor, right? Like he's emerging from this Piscean, this Piscean memory, this Piscean collective memory. And that he, as a result of this, it's almost like he is, in some ways, the second coming of Christ. Because this is how we define Pisces. This is how we define the ocean. And it's happening at a very pivotal time. It's around his birthday. So it has this solar resonance, or the birthday that we know of, a Leo. And I do believe he's a Leo. So I wrote a piece on this right at that time. And I was talking in these terms about Obama and about, why I didn't vote in that election. I didn't vote for anybody. So I didn't vote for anybody. But I knew something was up here. I knew something was up. Right? It's like, who is this guy? Where did he come from? And then I dove in and I started to find a lot of different things that nobody was really talking about at the time. Eventually they would. But this is why people, in a lot of ways, made that vote. Now, they may not have seen this picture directly, but it was in their head. He was new. He was young. He wasn't a Bush. He was somebody that they could relate to. He was hip. He played basketball. He checked all these boxes, but the box he really checked was this box right there. He captured people's imagination. He captured their imagination, and he captured their inherent sense of redemption, right? Because that was the thing that people weren't really talking about. They were, that was the thing that really wasn't discussed, was white guilt, right? It was partially he got a white guilt vote. And when they put him up against McCain, that was easy. That was an easy choice. McCain stood no fucking chance. No chance. Virgo, by the way, John McCain. And I don't think everything was about white guilt, but it was in there. A lot of people talked about it. It was translated into, well, it's about time we had a black president. It's about time. And they felt good about it. They felt really good about it. Yeah, let's do this. It'll help put the past behind us. How'd that work out? Not so good. I can tell you that right now. Not so good. And in fact, it went in the other direction, right? Because we were cool. We were pretty cool. We had a little Kanye, getting a little snappy with Bush, telling the rest of the world, after Katrina, Bush doesn't like black people. Who might argue? But that's about as like rough as that sailing sea would get. Now, shit. That almost looks like, in fact, it did look like a Saturday Night Live sketch, because fucking Mike Myers was there with them. I was like, is this a sketch? This is a skit? It's weird. Well, that was a sign of things to come with Kanye, speaking of Gemini, right? But now, my God, that was just, it seemed like a sketch, and it just seems so, in a weird way, innocent now. So she voted for Obama. Who wouldn't vote for Obama? But she won. Maybe it was better for her to run during an election where Saturn was retrograde, and maybe they couldn't pull off another heist during her election. Congratulations to Carrie Lake. I hope that if it's meant to be, that you are an elected official, and whatever happens at that point. Talk's a good game, but that's what politicians do. All right, let's go back to the chart of the moment here. Let's get into it. because that's what we were looking at. Right there and right there. All right. So we got into Saturn retrograde. So we have all these retrograde planets. Saturn's retrograde, Neptune's retrograde, Jupiter's retrograde, going backwards. Uranus is going to hit that retrograde patch here pretty soon. We talked about Mars. And when Mars goes into Gemini, which is kind of where we started all this, time is really going to pick up. You think time is fast now? Wait till it gets into Gemini. Wait till Mars gets into Gemini. It won't be like a Mercury retrograde, but because we're living in a time now where people are stressed out, people are tapped out. It's like, okay, what's next? What's next? What's next? Mars and Gemini, people are going to make big fucking mistakes. Big mistakes. People who are just trying to ride the rail. Right? This Mars Gemini is going to speed things up so much that it's going to be very, very difficult for certain narratives to unfold and get played out. And we'll see them in bursts. We'll see narrative bursts. But Mars and Gemini is going to be, it's the most restless Mars in the zodiac, and it's coming. And it's coming, and it's coming in a short period of time. What is it? I think it's the end of August. Right around the end of August. I think it's this is 21st of August, if I'm not mistaken. I think it's going, Mars is hitting Gemini at the same degree as Donald Trump's ascendant, if I'm not mistaken. So that would be right around 28 degrees, right around the 21st of August. And then it moves forward until Halloween. So you know the event in October is going to go by fast. There's a lot of air in the sky. We got a lot of Libra. We got Mars and Gemini. I think the weekend starts with the moon in Gemini. Just lots of information, lots of talking, lots of socializing. It's going to go by very quickly. Time once more. I mean, time is already going by extremely fast. But once it gets into Gemini, it is going to blur. When we get into the retrograde in October, that's right around what? The midterms. That's just before the midterms. That's a crazy aspect to happen just before the midterms. What's it going to do? Well, I could speculate. We'll play the Gemini game here. We'll play the Gemini game. We'll do the positive side and we'll do the negative side. And by the way, sometimes the positive side winds up being negative, and sometimes the negative side winds up being positive. Just remember that, because we live in a time now where I still feel it's really important to kind of lay back a little bit and watch where things go. Because you can see if you wait long enough, things will reveal themselves. And by the way, this has been a practice in my own life. I've had a few situations, I'm not going to talk about them, but instead of actually directly addressing those situations where I didn't feel comfortable, I let them play out. I let them play out, and they've worked out. Because I'm a Scorpio rising, right? A little control right there on the Scorpio side of things. But I've been learning and following this, there are these, I wouldn't call them lessons, but there are things that we can learn from in our immediate environment that try to get our attention. And if we can figure them out and understand them and work with them, they can be real teachers in our lives. I've had at least 3 experiences recently where I didn't insert myself. I just kind of waited for the thing to play out a little bit. And guess what? It worked out fine. Worked out better than if I had asserted myself. It inserted myself into that situation. Truly, much better. If I had inserted myself, I could have like fucked it up and been awkward, and then go back and think, geez, man, did I do the right thing there? Right. And by not doing anything, but being conscious and aware that it wasn't doing anything, it worked out fine. So that Mars retrograde can mean a lot of different things. So we'll play with it a little bit. So let's say, for instance, we're headed into another election cycle. How do they garner votes, or how have they garnered votes? I can't believe how they fucking collect votes now. Oh, you see that Coke machine over there? Well, okay, you see that box next to the Coke? No, not that box, the other box. Yeah, that's where you put your ballots. Seriously? Yeah, that's where you put your ballots. What about that other box? Well, that's where the cans go. You know, we recycle here. This is a green county. You're serious. That's where my ballot goes. Yeah, don't worry about it. We got people that come by every half hour. They empty out that box. Take them straight to where they count the votes. Where would that be? The vote counting place. That shit is happening. I know I'm being a bit of a caricature here, but it's happening. I can't believe it. Oh yeah, you drive up and you put your ballot in the plastic ballot box. When the fuck did this start? Right? Like I remember when I used to vote. You went to a place, you had a little booth, you had a number 2 pencil, you had a piece of paper, and you marked the box. Now I know they have electronic voting. I'm not that old. But now it's crazy, right? All right, so keep that in mind with Mars Gemini retrograde heading into what? The midterms. Not that far away. So if we're looking at Gemini, which has to do with being mobile, right? Being mobile, collecting things, data, information, that Mars retrograde might be a bit problematic. It might be a bit problematic. You might have people descending upon people collecting ballots. Oh, let's see what you got there. And even with Mars, it could get a little confrontational, right? That's one thing to look at, because Mars is not moving forward at that point. The other thing that could happen during that time is we could be dealing with something that actually interferes with the actual election itself. Now, go back to 2008 when the housing crisis hit and hit hard. John McCain was like, well, we should postpone the election. That's what he said. And Obama's like, nah, let's move forward with this. I got this in the bag. I don't want to waste any time. Of course, McCain is in on it. He's in on it. They're all in on it. But he wanted to postpone it, right? I mean, it was a big enough issue. We got to think about the American people. It was a virtue signal, as always doing. But we do have a bit of a precedent for that when he did that. Could something like that occur with a Mars retrograde in Gemini and stop the process? It's possible. It's very possible. There are a lot more things that could happen with this Mars Gemini retrograde. Travel could get very tricky. Very, very tricky. Usually when we think of travel and it being tricky, we're talking about like air travel, overseas travel. That shit's Sagittarius. But because we're dealing with an opposite sign, it could impact it, right? We have the moon in Sag tonight, 19 degrees. I like the moon in Sag. We got a nice sextile to Saturn, and we have a nice trine to the sun. By the way, tomorrow you're going to wake up, that sun-moon trine will still be in effect. So it's a good way to start your day, a good way to start your week. We're about a little over, we're halfway through Leo now, aren't we? 15 degrees, second decan, puts it into the Sagittarius decan. We got a Sag moon. I think you can enter Monday with a sense of optimism. You know, we talked about Leo with Nish and the gang on, what was it, Thursday? And you can learn a lot from this, from the astrological season that you're in, which not a lot of people talk about. I know I don't talk about it probably enough. So what are we supposed to learn during Leo season? Well, you're supposed to be able to do what? Feel confident, big-hearted, have some fun, right? You want to have some fun. I know the world is kind of shitty. You know, we're going into this Sun-Saturn opposition here over the next few days. It's like, yeah, we got this thing over here. That's going to be here. Or we got this thing over here. Let's go to the beach, right? That's kind of where we are right now. And you may get a nuclear tan at the beach, but at least you're going to the beach, right? Okay. So the other thing you want to do with the sun in Leo is you want to be able to share something, right? Be big-hearted. And I think Sheila was in on Nish's chat. She says, well, how does that look? How can we do this? So I'll give you a pretty easy thing to do. Have a dinner party. I know this sounds trite, right? But have a dinner party. Have a dinner party, make some great food. Bring some friends over. Treat them like royalty without any expectation. And make it exquisite. Make the place settings great. Make the food great. Maybe spend a few dollars more. If you drink wine, spend a few dollars more than you normally do on a bottle of wine. Right? That's the Leo thing to do. Like, have a moment where you're loving life and you're sharing it with people and you're generous. And when they leave your house, they feel great. Right? They feel like they've had kind of an experience fit for a king or a queen. That's just one version of this. So this is how we can work with things during Leo season, with Sagittarius coming into play now, because we're in the second decan here for the next, 5 days. With Sagittarius, you're blending your ability to be heartful, to be courageous, to be loving, to Sagittarius, which is being authentic. Sagittarius is a sign that's connected to authenticity. So now you may want to, cook a Thai meal or Vietnamese meal, Sagittarius. Other cultures. Get outside, right? This is a get outside time. When Leo hits that third decan and kicks into Aries, it's a good time to play some sports and go out and, connect with the world, right? Maybe test yourself a little bit if you can. So this is how we work with astrology on a seasonal level. When we think of Leo, we think of children too. And what do children do? They know how to play. They know how to play. They know how to have fun. Right? And we look around the world right now, and unfortunately, how do people play? How do they have fun? They have fun in taking pleasure in other people's misfortune. To me, that is not fun. You might get a little bit of a kick out of it. It's not fun. That's what's going on with Alex Jones. Alex Jones has Saturn on his sun. He's born on the 11th of February. That puts him right around 22 degrees. So he had Saturn retrograding over his sun as he's going through this trial. I have thoughts about the trial. I'm not going to get into them here. And there's a reason why. You can follow me on my other channel if you know where that is, and most of you do. But he's got Saturn going over his sun. Alex Jones not having a lot of fun. I can tell you that right now. And I have some thoughts and ideas about what's taking place. And even if he's part of the movie, he's playing a role in the movie, he's playing a shitty role. It's like, okay, here's your role. It's a shitty role, and you have to play it now. So that's Saturn going over his sun, right? And you look at that and you go, wow, that poor bastard. What's going on with him? What is his sun in opposition doing? Well, It's basically saying, number one, that's his issue, that's his problem, and they want to make an example of him so that people who aren't necessarily like him, but have seen him as someone who theoretically speaks out and has some kind of investment in the truth. Now, we're not going to go down the rabbit hole. We're not going to dissect Alex Jones. I've got my feelings about him. I don't think he's totally legit. Sorry. I've always felt that way. And I feel it now. But what they're trying to do is they're trying to get people to look at that and through Operation Mindfuck, shut you up. Like, see what happens? See what happens when you do that? Oh yeah, this is what's going to happen. So you better shut the fuck up or that's going to happen to you. Right? What is the sun doing over here? Sagittarius. It's like, you know what? I'm going to move forward. I'm going to move forward and I'm going to do my best to be authentic as I possibly can be. Now we got the sun coming into square with Uranus and coming into square with Mars this week. You may want to wait a few weeks before you keep it real, as Dave Chappelle used to say. Wait a few weeks. Wait till the sun moves into Virgo. It's going to be a lot more responsive. The sun moving into Virgo, when we get Virgo season, it's going to be a strong Virgo season. I can tell you that right now. You're going to have the sun eventually trining Pluto. You're going to have the sun trining Uranus. Those are strong trines. Yeah, we'll get into that Sun-Neptune opposition, but that's not towards the end of the transit, right? So hold off a little bit for keeping it real. Wait until the 23rd. 23rd, the energy shifts. Right now, have some fun. Right? Go out. And I know it sounds trite, but it's true. It's summer. There's plenty of hot weather out there. Try to recreate a little bit. Try to recreate and treat somebody. Take somebody out. Be generous. Be big-hearted. Right? And if something is not going your way in the moment, let it go a little bit, right? Show some royal restraint. And just see how things play out. You'll be surprised. You'll be very, very surprised. This week, we've got Mars coming into closer. Mars is right in square with Saturn, isn't it? Look at that. Look at that. I wonder what tomorrow is gonna bring here. We got the inconjunct with the moon. It'd be interesting to see what happens overnight. We've had a lot of seismic activity, a lot of volcanic activity. You've been noticing that last week or so with this. So that's firing up. All right, let me shift gears here because I'll think about this Mars Saturn square too much, and I don't want a lot of dead air. So I'll put it back in my subconscious. And so we did some chart of the moment stuff, right? We got there. Let's talk about the big stellium. It just happened. So if you go back and you look at my show from 2 weeks ago, what was I preaching? I was preaching not to suck the doom pipe. Don't suck the doom pipe because there's been so much doom, right? These transits now are tripwired for doom, and for good reason, because we see them and guess what happens? They're pretty fucking doomy. Some of them have been pretty doomy. But what we don't want to do is we don't want to front load and have these situations so that for all intents and purposes, they become self-fulfilling prophecies. We don't want that. If you're going to, and that was my message. And what you wanted to do is you wanted to be more bamboo-like and deal with what comes. And I think, looking back on how we started off last week and everybody was sitting around with bated breath, like, is Rome going to fall? Well, Rome will fall eventually. Don't worry about it. But it didn't. right? And we did have something happen with Pelosi. It did set a chain of events in motion. Now we've got China all lined up. They got all their chess pieces around Taiwan. Thank you, Nancy. Speaking of scripts. But yeah, we're still here, right? We're still here and we're still engaged and we're still doing our best to get through these times, and we will get through these times. And we're, people are they're gonna fuck up. They're gonna make mistakes. We're gonna see them make mistakes. Just wait till Mars goes into Gemini and people are rushing things. And it feels like as things speed up, they're trying to rush. They're trying to make shit happen as quickly as possible so that they can flip this script and have the new world in the new time, which I'm going to talk about now. All right. So if we go back and we look at the Saturn-Pluto conjunction, which happened, what was it, January 14th, January 12th, 14th of 2020. And I talked about, even before then, I talked about we are headed towards the end of time. That's, you go back and look at the material that I was doing my best to break down and describe. That's exactly what I was talking about. And that's exactly what happened. When Saturn-Pluto conjuncted, all we had to do was wait a little bit. And I'll never forget when I saw the first case of coronavirus, COVID, whatever the fuck you want to call it, happen and first of all, broke out in China. I'm like, okay, here we go. Here we fucking go. Because there had been an eclipse in China. Heather Elon and I talked about that. And we talked about that eclipse, and I was going through the bottom part of China. Guess what? That's where Wuhan is. It went through Hong Kong and then eventually, kind of petered out. But that's really the height of that eclipse, which took place in 2019 and was right around the winter solstice of 2019. And we did a show on that and we talked about it. And sure enough, here we go. And then comes into Washington, Jay Inslee's state. Of course, they're buddy-buddy with the Chinese. So, of course, it's going to land there and we're off and running, right? So there is a world now that is BC, before COVID. There's a world that's AC, after COVID. You remember how we used to do BC and AC? Somewhere along the line, it was like the BCE or whatever the fuck they changed it to. Where it's really simple, BC, AC. And then they changed it. Well, we're back to BC, AC again, before COVID, after COVID. And the social programming has been so intense in the after COVID world that as a combination of social Marxist theory, critical race theory, and all the things that have been thrown into the mix, all the various buckets of oppression that have been lined up, right? What are the things that we've had to deal with as a result of that? Well, this is not good. We're going to cancel people. We're going to cancel literature. Well, they canceled Dr. Seuss and a bunch of other books. We're going to cancel certain people that we believe are Alex Jones got canceled, right? That started in 2018, if I'm not mistaken. But it's part of this whole process, part of the whole process. And it hasn't gone away. If anything, it's been amplified. It's been amplified. Now, before it was just, BLM and dealing with the whole critical race thing. Well, now we've got, the alphabet mafia, as Jason Whitlock likes to talk about it, right? So now we've got all these things. And they're doing their best to connect all these dots, and then the oppositional force around all of this are the Christian white nationalists, right? The Christian white nationalists, the Nazis, the fascists, you name it, right? They're the oppositional force, and they keep redefining this thing over and over and over again. January 6th is about that. Like everything that comes up now has to do with it. Alex Jones is a part of it. So we're talking about the end of a particular time and the end of a particular culture and the end of the things that go along with it that are deemed to be culturally unacceptable. And, there are people who who grew up in the 60s, the 70s, and the 80s. And in a lot of ways, especially the 70s and the 80s, and for the most part, the 90s, although the 90s started to get a little weird towards the end. But the most eclectic and I would say socioeconomically and ethnically diverse period in American history were the 70s and the 80s. And people hung out and, different stripes, different races, different cultures. We hung out. That's what my high school experience was like. And maybe, I was, not the norm, but I don't think that's really true because that's kind of how it was in California at that time. And it wasn't just California. People hung out together. People played in bands together. You go back and you look at videos of and I'm talking like legit bands. They're totally mixed. You had Tower of Power, totally mixed group. You had Sly and the Family Stone. They were a mixed group. You look at some of the Frank Zappa and the Mother. Frank Zappa's band, the Mothers, like how they eventually. They're totally mixed. You've got George Duke and all these people playing in his band. It's like there's a part of that period where the math doesn't work, right? The social algebra fails us when we go back and look at those times. And we were talking about this again on Nisha's program, and I brought up Good Times, the show Good Times. And Good Times is a really interesting show when you go back and look at it. First of all, I never noticed this before, but you've got a nuclear family in Good Times. You've got the younger brother who is, really fucking smart, right? You've got kind of the sassy girl who's kind of in the in-between zone, but she's fine, right? She doesn't get in trouble. And then you got JJ, who's a little, likes to think he's a little pimpy, right? Hangs out with the pimps and the players every now and then. But at the end of the day, James or Florida reel him back in. It's a nuclear family. They're in Chicago. And I never noticed this, but there's a picture of Jesus in the Jeffersons, right? James Jefferson, right? That's their last name, JJ, right? So there is a picture of Jesus on the wall there. I had never noticed that before. And I was going back and I was looking at an episode where there is a pimp. Like JJ would run into pimps a lot. And there was an episode where a pimp was trying to get him to paint pictures for him. And eventually, like he comes over to the house a couple times. And I think the last scene, JJ's dad, John Amos, kicks him out. It's like, get the hell out of here. So now you have a strong father figure inside of the Jeffersons. And I guarantee you at some point, if we keep going down this path, those episodes of the Jeffersons will be gone. They'll be gone. And the reason they'll be gone is because they were developed during a period where these corporations created this entertainment and this media so that they could continue some form of systemic racism. I'm telling you right now, this is where this is going. A show like that will hit the memory hole. So I began to think more and more about the memory hole, like what will go down the memory hole. And things are going down the memory hole as we speak. Because we're going to hit a new time, another version of the new, just like how we were in between these world wars, World War I and World War II. We're in an in-between period right now. We're in this interregnum. And there's going to be an event that will signal the new age. We witnessed the end of time. We're in this kind of cryogenic, suspended, animated period right now. And what's going to happen is that something is going to kick in, and then the new thing will happen. It will happen very, very quickly. Very, very quickly. It could be something like the power grid going down. And when it comes back up, all this shit is gone. That happened in 1977. A very pivotal year, by the way, 1977. Happened in 1977 with the blackout in New York City. And like there were businesses that never came back. And when the lights came back on, the world changed. The world had changed. And and I've talked about this before, one of the things that comes out of the blackout in New York is what? Hip hop. Hip hop comes out of it. Because you had all these people stealing fucking turntables and sound systems. It's right. It is a fact. It is a fact. And then all of a sudden, 78, you got, DJ Kool Herc showing up in the park, scratchy, right? Shit starts to happen. And really, the blackout in New York is the beginning of hip. It's like the lights go out, comes back on, and a bunch of shit leaves. It leaves pawn shops and audio shops and sporting goods stores and all that. But then there's a new thing that happens, right? There's almost like the iteration of a new art form is born out of this moment in New York where the lights go out. So, we could experience something like, but it'd be different. I guarantee you. Lights go out now, it's trouble. It is trouble because of, how much this thing has been cooked. But if they do come back on, it could be what? Where did that go? There was all this music here. It's gone. Where did it go? There was all this media here. Where did it go? Well, don't worry about it. A lot of that stuff was just systemically racist. It needed to go. You think I'm kidding? It's this thing. It's not paranoia, because when you watch how these patterns work out, and because when we hit 2030, that's a big fucking deal, and they're trying to accelerate and bring 2030 forward or closer to us, reversing the time frame, because that's the and the reason there's a reason why 2030 is out there as a day, like Agenda 2030. And for me, I don't know about anybody else. For me, astrologically, things really change once you get past that point, because we're going through a period, and we'll go through a period where the outer planets will not be grounded at all. Right now, we got Uranus and Taurus. Once it goes into Gemini, I've talked about this before, with Uranus and Gemini, Saturn and Aries, Neptune and Aries, Pluto and Aquarius, we don't hit any fucking ground until, guess what? Saturn moves into Taurus. Once we get to that point, that is the new ground. And the intense volcanic electrification of that period is going to be the field of change, for better or worse. Now, there are entities, there are groups of people that want to control that. They want to control every aspect of it. I'm sorry, but it's true. They want to control it, because what they don't want is they don't want people waking up. And I'm not even talking about politically waking up. The political awakening is small. It's like small time, right? It's like a minor game. No, what they don't want people waking up to is they don't want people waking up to the fact that we are conduits of God, right? We were born with these chakras. We were born with this consciousness. It's in us, right? Everything that you see behind me, right, is a part of us. Everything. They don't want that. And by subdividing your attention, your consciousness, your friends, your family, your community, all these things, what are they doing? They're not allowing you to have this macro recognition that we are everything. We're everything, right? We're bigger than we can even remotely begin to understand. And some people have done it. Some people have had these breakthroughs, and they've done their best to teach this idea that we're living like this most of the time, right? This is how we're living, right? And what they want to do is they want to make it even fucking smaller. And we're just narrowly looking at this thing. And this thing is based on this opposition. And the opposition is based on the fact that there's a group of people who believe this group of people are evil. And there's another group of people who believes that group of people are evil. It reminds me of that Star Trek episode where it's a great Star Trek episode. It's so fucking Gemini. It's when Frank Gorshin and Lou Antonio are fighting each other, and they're fighting each other savagely. And one guy's face is black on one side and white on the other side, and the other guy's face is white on one side and black on the other side. It's one of the classic Star Trek episodes. They're the fucking same people. They just have their duality distributed differently. It's a great, I mean, it's kind of like a 101. It's like a consciousness 101 thing. But when you look at it, it makes total sense. And this is what's happening with us now. Here's the problem, as I see it. This is just as I see it. Because I've been to the other side, and the other side does not want to have a conversation. Period. End of story. They're not into having a conversation because the conversation doesn't fit within the box. And we got into that on Friday with Steve and Chris and Paolo Freire. They don't want to talk about that. You know, it was really interesting because, again, just go look at that show towards the end of the show. In fact, you can even look it up. You don't have to go to the show. Russell Brand does an interview with Henry Giroux. And Henry Giroux is the Paul to Freire's Jesus, okay? Spreading the gospel of Freire. So he's talking with Russell Brand, and he says right at the beginning, education is consciousness, but then he stops himself. And then he says education is politics. And that's different, right? That's different because it's defined by the political parameters. He's not defining education as consciousness. They don't have that discussion. Although Freire might actually talk about it a little bit, but he'll talk about it in terms of the struggle. Because consciousness is defined by the struggle, and everything is a struggle. Everything is a struggle, and everything is about change, right? It is the revolution. The revolution is based on the struggle. So if consciousness is being discussed, it has to do with struggle. But that's what we're here to deal with, right? That's what we're here theoretically to shatter. We're here to shatter that idea of this narrow bandwidth that they just keep locking us into. And the only fucking enjoyment that people get is when, if you're on one side, Alex Jones gets his shit handed to him, and my God, you're down at the bar and you're doing drinks and having. I mean, it's just your fucking Christmas, right? And if you're on the other side, you'll have some variation of that. Oh, see, look what happened to her. Look what happened to that dumb bitch AOC, right? I mean, this is kind of where we are right now. And it goes right back to that Star Trek episode. If you haven't seen it, it's because there's some people who are young. Let's see if I can find it. Let's do this. I know exactly who the actors are, so I can show you if you haven't seen it. Okay, here we go. I know I'm going to get the pictures on it. It's called Let That Be Your Last Battlefield. It's season 3. And let me show you guys the page. We're going to the big page here. And Gene Roddenberry knew exactly what he was doing here. So these guys, you can see, right, that they're like, he's got his face is white here, black here. His face is black here and white here. And they hate each other. And they get into these epic battles, like on the Enterprise. And that's like all this static energy, and it's, you know, it's intense and everything, right? Let that be your last battlefield right there. Classic Star Trek. And of course, Kirk is trying to, oh, look, the Simpsons have to get in on it. Of course, they have to fucking get in on it. So Kirk is trying to get them to understand that they're the same fucking people. And it's ridiculous. And that's what's going on here, right? And the game, the big distraction game, sometimes it has to do with look what the right hand is doing because the left hand is doing some over here, or look what the left hand is doing, the right hand is doing. Sometimes there is that. But the big distraction game is the consciousness game. It's the God game. That's the big distraction. That is the big distraction, right? And I can even look back in my life in the last 10 days, 3 events where I could have gone in and said, this is my position and this is what I want. And sometimes, by the way, sometimes that's important. That sometimes, I'm not saying that it's not something you should pay attention to. But I didn't do that. I didn't take a position. Didn't take a position. And what happened? By not taking a position, by not being here, I was right here. And the thing that I was attempting to do got done without me even doing it. That's what they don't want people to understand. They want us at our throats. They want us at each other's throats. I've seen things online where I'm telling you, I want to blow a gasket because they anger me so much, especially when things are done to kids and animals, the typical like human stuff, right? And then, you know, and then older people, and then just in general, you know, the shit that people have to go through right now, it really pisses me off. And I know I'm not alone. And I know there are people that are supposedly on their side who feel the same fucking way in their own way. I don't have a patent on, right? It's not my copyright. And there are things that we should be outraged about. And there are things that we should have righteous anger towards, especially people that were bullied and coerced to do things in order to stay employed and to feed their families. There should be outrage around that and some moral indignation around that. How we resolve that, well, we'll find out here pretty quickly. But the distraction game is to get people to believe that they're Frank Gorshin or Lou Antonio. And they're the same fucking people. They just have things arranged a little bit differently. Now I'm whispering like Joe Biden. That's the distraction. So what we have to do to the best of our ability, right? This goes back to this new time, the quote unquote new age, is that we have to hold the space for that thing. And sometimes you got to draw the line. And sometimes you got to get involved. And sometimes you have to take a stand. And other times it's best not to get involved. And it's best to sit back, especially if you are personally engaged in something. Watch what happens. Be conscious of it though. See, that's the big part. For me, just my own piece here, is that I was conscious when I went into those situations of not doing the thing that I thought I needed to do in order to get it done, so things would kind of break my way. I was conscious of it, but I didn't do it. It wasn't out of fear, because I could go there. Right? I've done it before, right? Broach the subject so that the other person might feel uncomfortable, that I might feel uncomfortable. I've done it before. Sometimes it's worked really well. I was not going to do that this time, but I was aware of that, right? This is what's going on. And they just keep subdividing and subdividing and subdividing and subdividing until eventually there's nothing. Everybody is your fucking enemy. Everybody is your polar opposite, or everybody. And I even see it in like the truth world, right? It's like it gets fractal. And I do my best to not say anything. Somebody will send me a text sometimes and they'll like, hey, check this out. Or what do you think of this? And I may not be into that person. I'm like, yeah, fine, great, right? Other times I may say something, but I'm trying in my own way because we're all in different places. We're all we're doing our best to get to this place where we know to the best of our ability what the fuck is going on. And we can have right thought, right action, and right feeling. That's where we are. That's where we need to be, to the best of our ability to know what the fuck is going on, right thought, right action, right feeling. Sometimes you can find that from a video. Sometimes you can't. Where are you going to find it? You're going to find it in your life. That's where you're going to find it. You'll find it in your life. You could watch the coolest fucking video. Like, you may watch this video tonight and say, man, that was a really cool fucking video. I love what that guy said. It doesn't mean anything unless you do something with your life. I'm nothing unless you do something with your life. You may hear it, go, yeah, maybe that kind of works for me. That's what it's about, right? And what's happened is they've turned us all into these kind of observers in the Truman Show, and we're at each other's throat, and we're waiting for the next shoe to drop, and it's no fucking way to live. I can tell you that right now. It is no way to live. They're robbing us of our joy. They're robbing us of our interaction. They're robbing us of our love. They're robbing us of our intimacy. They're robbing us of the things that are the most important things we can have as spiritual beings having a human experience. You know what? We're letting them do that. That's why. We're letting them do it. And how do you change it? Well, Robert, what do we do? Well, you live your life in a way where, guess what? It matters. You live not your life in a way like, oh, look at my life, I'm so fucking important. No, like your life matters. And I've been talking about this for a long time. You know, I used to practice this when I would go to the supermarket here, when all the shit was going down and people were walking around like, oh, what's going to happen next? I'd go to the grocery store. How are you today? I'm great. I'm great. How are you? And when you respond that way, people are like, whoa, I wasn't prepared for that. And you know what the stakes are. You know what the stakes are right now. You look around, things aren't all that great. But who's going to determine that ultimately? It's going to be you, right? So you have to live your life like it matters. And don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to go into a situation where you can be happy, or you can be an agent of joy in a moment. Don't be afraid to do that. You don't want to toss pearls before swine, because, you know, kind of a dangerous world out there every now and then, especially now. But we have to anchor this, right? No, this thing is not going to happen unless we anchor it. And because what else are we going to do? I mean, we can form coalitions, and we can go to city council meetings. We can do all this stuff, and it can be fine. And sometimes it works. And other times it doesn't work. You may not have the right mix of people. Your beliefs may not be the same. You may agree on a few things, but on some other things you may be way off on. And the things you agree on, the things that bring you together, the things we can take action on, well, they may not be the same thing, right? So what are you going to do? Well, you're going to live your life like it matters. And even if your life is difficult, live it with dignity to the best of your ability. We're in Leo season. That's what you're supposed to do. Leo season, because they can take everything and eradicate the memory. That's where this thing is headed. They can eradicate the memory. They can, all this content that's been digitized, right? In a heartbeat, gone. Where's it going to go? Where's it going to go? You got a DVD, you got a book? Oh, maybe. You could say, hey, there was this show back in the 70s, and it was really cool. It was like super integrated and people got along. What show is that? Well, it was called The Jeffersons. What's that? I'm on YouTube, and I don't see The Jeffersons on YouTube. Right? Think about that for a minute. We talked about this. All that shit, because all been digitized, could be gone. And we have a whole generation that will know nothing ultimately about any of it. Nothing. And they'll be indoctrinated into this new thought, and you'll have no examples. We'll have no examples of how things were. None. And you may have some DVDs or videos or whatever, and they may be part of the underground market. Oh, that's great. We got a little Fahrenheit 451 action here, but that's the new time. That is Pluto and Aquarius. We are at the final degrees of Pluto and Capricorn. And when it changes, the time will change, and will change almost instantaneously. So we're in this interregnum. We're in this place. It's kind of a limbo place, and it will change. How is it going to change? It's going to change based upon who we are. You have to anchor this thing inside of you. Every single day you have to anchor to the best of your ability. And it's not easy. I get it. And there are things that you can do. And I find myself like, oh God, I am not going to go over here and argue with these fucking people again. Because it's no win. It's a no-win situation. Nobody wants to hear. If you're in an oppositional field, nobody wants to hear what the fuck you have to say. Because people have been riled up and programmed, and they're all triggered, and it's problematic. Trust me. But this is important, right? Because this is the astrological time we're in. Because when it goes, it goes. It goes. And, we may have a Phoenix event in 2040, but I guarantee you they will do everything in their power to wipe out the past, just like they did before. When I say before, just go down the Tartarian Trail and go look at all these giant buildings that were just built fucking nowhere. And what do they become? They become insane asylums. They become sanitariums. Why? They had to put people that remembered what the fuck happened before. That's where they had to put them. They were problematic for the new narrative in the reset. It's happened before. It'll happen again. The only thing that can change it and alter it is you. And don't think your life is insignificant. Don't think that any act that you do is insignificant. Because it matters. And I've said this before, it matters. Not that, when I say it matters, like how you treat yourself, how you treat your body, how you treat the people that are close to you, it's so important. And even people that you don't know, it can be really important. It matters. I talked about this. I was in Nashville a few weeks ago. I sat down, I started talking to this guy, right? Nobody had asked this guy questions and asked him about his life probably in a very long time. Who knows? Ever? I don't know. I don't hang out with the guy. But by the time the night was over, he's like, hey, man, I got to go out and get some water. You want to come with me? I'm like, sure. Yeah, why not? He took his camera out and he took pictures and he's talking to me. It's like, this is what we do for one another. This is what we do for one another. And we have to be conscious of the, and some days you're just not up to it, right? You're just like, fuck it, man. I'm not up to it. I'm going to pull the covers over my head today. You can do that too. That's fine. You don't have to be, I don't know, St. Francis every fucking day. But this is the thing that keeps the lubricant of the human condition moving. This is important. All right. We got into time. We got into Pluto and Aquarius. We got into all this stuff. If you want to be an exemplar of how things can be across the board, and remember the past and be rooted in the present and do everything in your power to make sure that the future is a world that is one that's based on resonance. Resonance, truth, and love. You do that, life will bring you the opportunities. You'll have the opportunities. That's starting off with the intention. And life will bring you the opportunities. And then you get to practice it. All right. Coming up at 9 o'clock here, huh? 10 o'clock on the East Coast. Why don't we go for another 45 minutes? I want to get into Marlon Brando. Let's talk a little bit of Marlon Brando. So I started to watch these interviews with Marlon Brando over the weekend, and he's fucking fascinating. Okay, Marlon Brando is fascinating. Not only is he fascinating, but Marlon Brando changed the world. He changed acting. Like Marlon Brando, there was not another actor prior to Marlon Brando that was like Marlon Brando. And then every actor after Marlon Brando looked up to Marlon Brando. He's kind of like the Jimi Hendrix of acting, but not. He's got his own thing, right? So I did this dive on Brando and I started to look at his chart. And it's a very interesting chart. Let me first of all, I want to get a visual of Brando when he's young. Let's just do a Marlon Brando visual. And by the way, we're going to get into some astrology around this. Pretty cool. So the many faces of Marlon Brando. So we have the young Brando, right? All these women who are his contemporaries. I mean, they basically just, wet their pants over the young Brando, right? 5'9", he wasn't a very big guy, but he's pretty strong, pretty well built. And he had a face, right? He had, he almost reminds me in some ways. I mean, that's a fucking handsome dude. I mean, look at him. That's a handsome dude. Celebrity crushes, falling in love with Marlon Brando. See, I mean, all these women, men too, by the way, were very into Brando. I mean, the guy's a handsome fucking dude, right? But he changes acting. And he has this really crazy social impact. And he dies young. I mean, Brando dies young. Like when he died, he was younger than me. And he looked like fucking shit, right? Here's Brando just before he dies. By the way, guess who he's hanging out with around this time? Michael Jackson. Brando is hanging out with Michael Jackson because his son, Christian, was friends with Michael Jackson. And Brando's a mess. He's an absolute mess. So he goes, and he's young, like he's younger than me in this picture. Obviously, he's lived a lot harder than me. That's a fact, Jack. But his chart is really interesting, and you can see how his chart. It's this chart of like a Titan, actually. When you look at his chart, I'm going to bring it up. So this is Brando's chart. Right here. So he's a Sag rising, and he has Jupiter in Sag in the first house. Clearly, Jupiter and Sag in the first house. Anytime you have Jupiter in the first house, guess what happens? You can put on weight, especially in Sagittarius. Trust me, I have it. I was headed down the Brando path at one point. Fortunately for me, my Virgo sun kicked in. But you got huge, right? And Jupiter and Sagittarius, anything worth doing is worth overdoing. Got to say yes to another excess. That's Jupiter and Sagittarius. And Brando didn't say no to a whole lot. At the end of the day, Marlon Brando was a hedonist in terms of what he put in his body, what he put in other people's bodies. Brando loved men, he loved women, right? There was no distinction about what Brando was into. And he fathered a shit ton of kids, tons of kids, multiple marriages, kids out of wedlock. The guy probably fathered at least 7 or 8 kids. I lost track. But you look at his chart, and he's got this grand fire trine, right? Jupiter trining the moon, trining the sun, trining Chiron. His Chiron is really interesting because that's one of the things about Brando that comes through. He's got this Sun Chiron conjunction. So on the one hand, he comes across as being, kind of this tough guy, right? Like the Wild Bunch, right? The Wild Ones. The Wild Bunch is the other one. The Wild Ones. He's this tough motorcycle guy, dresses in leather, plays a boxer, Stanley Kowalski, tough guy, right? But then he's got Chiron there, which also makes him incredibly vulnerable. And this is one of the things that women love about Brando, is that Sun Chiron conjunction. His Chiron is also at the same degree as the US Chiron in Aries. I'm going to show you that. So obviously he is going to resonate in a big way because of that Chiron. So what is Jupiter doing? It's making him bigger, literally bigger, literally figuratively bigger, right? Jupiter is expanding his potential, his emotional potential, right? Brando doesn't want to live with small emotions. He wants to live with big emotions. But that moon in Aries, it's all about now. Like Aries is now, now, now. He's got moon, he's got sun, he's got Chiron, Mercury. Brando is about now. He is, here's what Brando would do. There's a movie called, I think it's called The Men. It's his first movie. Guess what? He plays somebody who is disabled. That's his first role. That's Chiron. It's a very unusual movie. It's called The Men. It's his first film, right? And that's how people begin to see him. But then he plays a boxer, right? Plays this boxer. It could have been a contender, right? That's like Aries. It's like Chiron and Aries. But what does Brando do? He goes and he spent time in a ward with like war veterans and people who were disabled. Spent a whole month doing that. So that when he came to the role, that's what he brought. Right? That's what he did. So Brando was kind of like this guy who was a jazz musician. And he had spent all the time prior to the movie getting into character. He did the same thing when he played Via Zapata, or Zapata. I think the movie's called Via Zapata. He went to Mexico and he fucking learned how to speak Spanish in Mexico, spent time there, because he wanted to get into, he would do this all the time. Why would he do this? So that when he got there, right, he would be now. He was ready to burn. The only time he didn't do that early in his career was with the movie Guys and Dolls, because he'd never been in a musical before, didn't sing, didn't dance. That was like his John Travolta movie. That was like his Saturday Night Fever movie. And he had to give Frank Sinatra. He tried to get Frank Sinatra to help him. That's a whole other story. But you can see here with the moon right behind the sun, his moon is in balsamic position. So he has to let go of a lot of things. And he did let go of a lot of things, except for weight. Although I think there were times where he did gain weight and lose weight quickly. I don't think that's good for people. Anyway, the moon in this balsamic position is about memory. So what he would try to do is he would try to go into a thing or into a place and absorb it. And then he could just burn, right? It's like, okay, I'm going to get to the solo as quickly as possible. Although he was known for doing all these different takes. But apparently people that worked with him said that every take he did was different. And it was kind of like the Steely Dan version of making a record. They'd bring in all these guys, play solos on these songs, then they'd pick one. And all the solos, if you listen to that, that's pretty good. That Larry Carlton solo is really good. The Denny Diaz solo is really good. Well, let's use the Jay Graydon solo instead. And that's what Brando was like, apparently. But to get there, he had to have this memory. this balsamic moon. Also a very deeply conflicted relationship with his mother and his father, right? His father over here, Saturn, 0 degrees, Scorpio. His father was like always telling him he'd never amount to anything. He got that programming right there with Mercury in Aries. Mother, an alcoholic, hardcore alcoholic, all these hard squares, especially, moon, Pluto, moon, sun, to some degree Chiron, but mostly moon, sun, squaring Pluto. There's the mother, right? Pluto in Cancer, hard, intense. And apparently when he was young, the babysitter molested him, right? He had a nanny. I guess he had this kind of like weird long-term relationship with the nanny. And then the nanny left and he was heartbroken. He was shot. I mean, Brando had a weird upbringing. Very, very, the upbringing the history that we know is very weird. There could be stuff that we don't know that's even more weird. He's got that Mars-Pluto opposition. Yeah, very intense. And when we get into Mars, we get into things like men, right? That's masculine. Over here, Pluto's in Cancer, 8th house, hidden, occulted. Got this big fucking T-square going on right here. Brando's very intense guy. You're okay, well, tell me something new, Robert. But you can see this astrologically. The moon-Pluto square, the intense and tortured relationship with his mother, with women in general. And he was cruel. Like Brando was fucking cruel to women. And his first wife, the mother of Christian Brando, she was this actress who was from India. I think she was maybe born or raised in England. Wrote a scathing autobiography of Brando. She talks about this. She's in an interview, and in the interview, she talks about how Brando didn't care. Like he would have affairs, and he wouldn't care. Again, this very Aries, like this whole Aries thing, he just didn't care. And one time she was pregnant with Christian Brando, and he brought this woman over to their place in LA. And it was clear that, he was fucking this woman. And she comes in and she says to her, you shouldn't eat curry while you're breastfeeding your child. It's not good for your child. So this woman Brando's fucking is telling his wife not to eat curry because it's bad for the kid. Then apparently there was only one mango in the refrigerator. And Brando's wife loved mangoes. She took her last fucking mango. And by the way, getting a mango back then in LA, probably not that easy. Mangoes were not as abundant as they are now. So taking that last mango, not easy. And this was Brando. He didn't give a fuck, right? And the women in his life suffered, right? He had conflicts, hard conflicts with women and severe anger towards the mother. Look at that right there. Mars Moon Square. Eventually, I think the parents got into a AA, stopped drinking. But the damage had been done by that point. And you probably make a case that Brando wanted to hurt women. He wouldn't hurt them, I think, physically. I don't think Brando beat women up or anything. I don't think that was his thing. But psychologically, he definitely was not adverse to inflicting pain. We're going to get into his relationship with Rita Moreno in a minute. But you can see the acting chops here too, right? The Sun-Neptune trine, and Neptune being the highest planet in his chart, and it's in Leo, right? That's the thespian right there, the thespian. Highest planet in his chart, true node in Virgo. So what he really should have done with his life is help people. Did he do that? Not to my, yes, he did. Brando did do some things. There's a story when Martin Luther King got killed, that he and John Lindsay walked through Harlem together that night and kind of helped keep the city together. So Brando did do some interesting things. Donated some money. He was I don't know. I'm not into that. I think that was brave. That was a very Aries thing to do, what he did. He's a really trippy and controversial character, but he's a great actor. He changes acting, and you can see the chart that changes acting. Sun trine Neptune, moon trine Neptune, right? That moon in Leo in the 9th house. By the way, he was totally into women from other cultures, whether they were from Tahiti or India or Native American women. He was into women from other cultures. There's your Neptune, right? The moon trine Neptune. And being able to channel his emotion, and even Jupiter here trining Neptune, right? Bringing this kind of very expansive and big presence, right? Brando had a huge presence. And he was a rule breaker. He's got a Mars-Uranus square. And that was clear early on. He got tossed out of school for riding his motorcycle through the halls. But a very strange relationship with a lot of people. His completely misunderstood. Look where his Venus is, right? He's got an inconjunct to Saturn, terrified of commitment, completely terrified of commitment. Venus conjunct Algol, relationships felt like they were strangling him at times, I bet. And this guy did not feel understood. His Venus has these minor aspects, but no real major aspects. And it's in the 6th house. So this Brando would wind up like marrying and dating actors and actresses that he would work with. He would do that. So he did a movie with Jack Nicholson. It was a Western. It was Missouri Breaks. Never seen it. Apparently it's a terrible movie. Some people like it. But one of the things that happened on that set is apparently he and Jack Nicholson became lovers. Richard Pryor was supposedly one of his lovers. Neptune, Leo, 9th house, Sagittarius. Richard Pryor was a Sag, right? He's over here in his 1st house. Brando's a complex guy, a super complex guy. But you can also tell here that he is a Titan. When it comes to acting, that grand trine, able to muster all of these faculties, the woundedness, the intensity, right? The emotional, potential, sort of this fiery, smoldering emotions back behind the sun, dissipative. I think the balsamic moon in Aries has got to be one of the hardest balsamic moons, right? If you got a balsamic moon in Taurus, in a Capricorn, fuck. I think balsamic moons are hard, but in Aries, it's like, it's all about now, let it go, now, let it go, now, let it go, catch and release, catch and release, catch and release. But then we have the trine to Jupiter, so it's going to expand. He's a complex character. This is a very complex chart. But it's clear where his greatness lies, right? And he even has this yod with Mars and the intensity of Mars and Uranus, bringing this whole method acting thing, something new, something different, the rebel, this, again, right in there with that yod to Neptune. Everything like moves towards Neptune in this chart. And he would have a splash chart, right? Because he has planets in 1, 2, let's just go here, even though it's an ingress, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 out of 12. That's a splash chart. And people that have splash charts have a ton of interests. And Brando is part of it, right? He's got a ton of interests. Like he could tell you about the life cycle and the social structure of termites. I mean, Brando knew some like crazy shit. And he could talk about this stuff forever. People would be like, wow, you're fucking fascinating. Right. And it wasn't a bullshit. It wasn't bullshit. And apparently he had a great sense of humor. That was the other thing. People loved he was a big practical joker when he wanted to be. On The Godfather, what's interesting about The Godfather is you have basically 3 Aries involved with The Godfather. You have James Caan, Francis Coppola, and you have Brando. And they all got along with each other. Like Coppola understood Brando. He totally got him. He totally got Brando. and was able to bring him back on for Apocalypse Now. There's like a little bit of a club. Okay, so there's this chart. And I want to show you a few things. Like, this is really interesting from an astrological standpoint, like the rise of Brando. I'll show you the rise of Brando astrologically. You can see it in his chart. Oh, we just did that. Okay, hold on. All right. That's Sayonara. Look at all these Brando charts. Okay, so this is his first movie. It's called The Men. It's a weird movie, and it has to do with people that are disabled. I think was Kazan the director or Stanley Donen? I forget. So this is his first movie, and you can see where Pluto is in his chart, right? Pluto is coming in, transiting Pluto, coming in, hitting his Neptune, hitting his sun, hitting his moon, hitting Chiron, and bang, there's Jupiter right there, right? And you could also see where Saturn, which is in Virgo, which is also interesting, right? Because he's doing a movie about people who are disabled. There's almost like a message here with this movie. And Saturn's about to hit his midheaven. Here's the South Node transiting through there. It looks like it's right at the beginning of, end of Libra. Beginning of Libra. Getting ready to go into Virgo. This is the day that the movie The Men breaks. It's on July 20th. So you can also see that Brando's about ready to have this Saturn transit of his 10th house. And in astrology, that's a big deal, right? When Saturn hits your 10th house, you're on. You get it. It's not easy, but you're on. It's like everything that you've worked for the past 14 years comes to fruition. So he has Saturn getting ready to make its entrance onto his midheaven, puts him into the world. He has Pluto right here, conjuncting Neptune, trining his sun, trining Jupiter. He is going to change acting from this point forward. He's going to influence a whole group of what? Baby boomers. Baby boom actors are going to pick up on Brando. And this movie breaks in 1950. The baby boomers start to come onto the scene, the really early ones, 1942. The ones who become influential starting around 1946. So they are at this time 6 years old. By the time Brando gets about 10 years out in 1960, he's actually starting to decline a bit, but he's already done the big movies. He's already done On the Waterfront. He's already done The Wild Ones. And who's going to pick up on that? These boomers, these boomers, they're going to watch the movies. They're going to idolize him, right? They're going to start to method act. Like, he is the Prometheus. Marlon Brando is the Prometheus of acting. And the baby boomers, ultimately somebody like Francis Coppola, will wind up saving his career. And nobody wanted to hire Brando for when he wanted to cast him for The Godfather. Nobody wanted to hire him. And Coppola saved him. A baby boomer, right? Somebody who has Pluto and Leo. So you can see this, right? I mean, there's other things going on here. You know, he's got these oppositions, and he's got Neptune scoring Mars, which probably for a film where he's playing somebody who's disabled, it's probably going to help him in some ways, right? But this is his, you know, kind of bright lights, big name, bright lights moment. So he's going to go on, right? He's going to do a number of films between this film and then the one that I'm going to show you, his last quote unquote kind of great movie before he really starts to drop off. And he'll have some other films, like, of course, he'll be great in The Godfather. And of course, he'll be great in Apocalypse Now. And I do think he's great in Apocalypse Now. But by that time, he's like super lazy. He's got like, you know, his lines are, you know, taped all over the place. So he can like, right? He doesn't even care about learning his lines. And a lot of the stuff that he talked about in Apocalypse Now wasn't even in the script. But Coppola loved him. He's a pain in the ass, but he loved him. So I'm going to show you the movie Sayonara. And I'm just trying to give you guys kind of an understanding here about how astrology can really make a kind of a big impact, right? That's The Godfather. You can see these transits on these lives. So this is in a lot of ways, it's like, in a lot of ways, Sayonara is his peak. And you can see Pluto here. He's got some other movies that happen after this. One-Eyed Jacks, which he'll direct, and it's the last film he directs. But he really starts to drop off after Sayonara. So this is in 1957. So this would represent a Saturn cycle from his first film, which is The Men, to Sayonara. And it's interesting that the movie's even named Sayonara. It's like, see you later. And he hasn't gone to pot yet, but he's also going to start to make movies that are slightly inferior from this moment forward. So he reaches this peak with Sayonara, and there's Pluto right on his true node, right? It's almost like, okay, here it is. This is why you came here. This was your purpose. And now in a weird way, it is going to transform. It's going to transform. And again, there's other things happening here. He's got Neptune conjuncting, and there's all the personal life stuff, but I'm just looking specifically at his acting arc, because after Sayonara, it starts to go downhill. It's like Sayonara, right? I mean, really, you can look at the name and it's really symbolic. He shares the screen with, guess what? Another Aries in James Garner. He's one of the co-stars of the movie. And another guy who's in the movie, Red Skelton. You know what's really weird about Marlon Brando was his relationship with Wally Cox. That is really fucking weird. He grew up with Wally Cox. And he said, if Wally Cox was a woman, I'd marry her. That's weird. Or I would have married him. He and Wally, it's been rumored that he and Wally Cox were like this. And when he had Wally Cox's ashes cremated and he kept a part of them, he would eat breakfast with Wally Cox. Strange, right? I don't know what sign Wally Cox is. I forgot to look that up. But Red Skelton, not Red Skelton, what's the other guy? Red Buttons. Red Buttons is in this movie too. Of course, red, the color varies. But James Garner, two Aries, he seems to connect with Aries throughout his movie career with directors and actors. He's going to have Saturn conjunct Jupiter, right? That's going to come in. And Saturn, when it conjuncts with Jupiter, it kind of changes fortunes a little bit, right? You're supposed to kind of redefine, the things that have come easy to you. And I think right around this time is when Brando thinks he wants to direct. And he's going to do this movie, One-Eyed Jacks, with Carl Malden. And so his world's about to change. But he reaches his peak here, right? Pluto's the peak. And this is, I did One-Eyed Jacks. It opens in New York, like most movies did back then. And it opens at 12 noon, right? That's it. He's at the top of his game. And then from that point forward, right, Pluto is going to hit his midheaven. So he's still going to have some intensity with Pluto here. But the intensity that comes with Pluto is a bit different, right? He's going to go through and he's going to do Last Tango in Paris, which I think he won an Academy Award for that. Or he might have been nominated. And once it moves past his midheaven, he's really, at that point, moving much further down the scale. All right, I just thought that was interesting. So then the third movie that really changes Brando is The Godfather. And that's worth looking at. So this is, now remember, these are when these movies open. The Godfather, the filming for took time. So it's not, I don't know. I didn't look up when the filming started, but it's like, okay, this is the impact. And you can see here, like what's going on for Brando. So at that time, Neptune is in Sagittarius. It's right on his ascendant. And it's beginning to start to make this trine with his natal Neptune. So he's starting to come back again, right? Neptune will begin to, at some point over the course of the next years, which will include Apocalypse Now. It will also include some lesser roles in movies that he actually was kind of lauded for. Like, I think his role, what was it in, I think he had a brief stint in Godfather 2, but he was in that movie. Was it called the Freshman or something like that? He had a couple of lesser movies that did pretty. I know he did Superman. He got a shit ton of money for Superman. He really didn't do anything. He just played Superman's dad. But you can see that this is the next wave that Brando is catching. And it's on the ascendant, and it's ultimately going to start to move into trine with his moon and sun and Chiron. It's going to move into trine with his natal Neptune. Where's Pluto in his chart? His Pluto's over here. So he hasn't gone through the Neptune-Pluto opposition yet, which he will. So Brando at this time is 72, 74. So he's not quite 50 yet. When that Neptune-Pluto opposition happens, he'll be in his early 50s, right? So he's 48 years old. 48. So he's getting his second wind at 48. The Saturn opposition has already happened. He probably hit that Saturn opposition when he started filming The Godfather. I don't know the exact date, but I'd be willing to bet that that's what happened. And that would have happened at 44. So something around 44 changes for him. And I think The Godfather took, what was it, 2 years to move to play, or I'm sorry, film? I think about 2 years. So what happened around 46? Something happened at 44. I have to go back and look at Brando's chronology, but he's making a change here. And this is part of his second wind. So you can see where it all happened. To me, when you look at these transits and somebody like Brando, and you can see how these things happen, like with their life and their career, like that first movie, Pluto and Neptune, right? Saturn and Virgo, even the Neptunian thing with, playing this disabled character in The Men, Pluto hitting his true node, Sayonara, generally considered like kind of his last best movie over that Saturn cycle. Things start to go downhill a little bit there. Still some success, and he doesn't get resurrected, which is a Neptunian. It's a Neptunian keyword, right? The Godfather resurrects his career, and we think of Neptune on the ascendant in terms of Piscean symbology, right? And the resurrection of the Christ. So he gets resurrected here during The Godfather. Anyway, interesting stuff. He did have a very difficult relationship with Rita Moreno. So we're going to look at the synastry between him and Rita Moreno. And I'm going to play you a clip of Rita Moreno talking about Brando and her relationship to him. And we're going to break down how this actually works in terms of two people in their chart, which I like doing this shit. And Rita Moreno is a very interesting woman. There's a scene, if I'm not mistaken, with Rita Moreno in Carnal Knowledge. I'm pretty sure it's Rita Moreno at the end of Carnal Knowledge. I'll have to look that up. Anyway, let's play this interview with Rita Moreno. She's talking about her relationship with Marlon Brando. And Rita Moreno was just a firecracker. She could sing, she could dance. I mean, she's so fucking talented. She could act. total package. And she was obsessed with Brando. All right, so let's hear this. She's going to talk about him. Let me put my headphones. I don't want to hear this. Then we're going to look at his chart, their charts, and then I'm going to play one more thing. It's at the end here, but it's important. It's Gen Z. It's a long show. David does long shows. I'm getting a training from when David gets here right now, October. All right, here we go.
Very famous and powerful men, Marlon Brando, Elvis Presley. One of the things about Marlon Brando, it's in the public record, a very wounded person.
Yes, he was a very damaged person.
Yeah.
And I wasn't exactly unwounded either. And these two obsessives came together and just exploded. We were really addicted to each other. And addictions are very, very difficult to get rid of. Very.
It was an 8-year relationship. He married 2 other women in the course of that relationship, fathered children with them.
Yep.
What was it that made you stay?
I loved him. It's obsessive love, which is a whole nother thing. I mean, we need another half hour for that one.
But
with the presence of a psychiatrist.
The common theme through all of this is that these men were drawn to you. When men achieve that level of fame and wealth, what are their biggest insecurities or problems that keep them from total happiness?
Well, I don't think Marlon ever got to trust women. I don't know enough about Elvis really to make any kind of supposition. But I know that Marlon was a horribly damaged person by the time I met him. His mother was an alcoholic, his father drank, and she disappointed him constantly over and over and over. So he kept either punishing women for having the capacity to do that to men, and he kept punishing himself by finding women who were very often not reliable. Interesting, yes?
And yes, indeed, and tragic in the sense that it even drove you to attempt suicide while you were with him.
It did. It was my way, twisted and sick as it was, to try to end that kind of humiliation and pain. I just didn't know how else to do it because I kept going back to him.
So the Elvis thing is interesting because Brando kept dumping her and fucking her. Yeah, that was the theme for Brando. So then Elvis, Colonel Tom Parker contacted Rita Moreno and said, Elvis wants to go out with you. She didn't really care about Elvis. I mean, he was a good looking dude and everything, but she was in love with Marlon Brando. She knew that if she went out with Elvis, Marlon Brando would be fucking jealous. And she'd get him back. And that's exactly what happened. She knew exactly what to do. 8 years, big cycle. So what drew them together and what held them together? Let's see if I can find this chart here. It's right here. So we're going to do a little quick study here in synastry. They had a Mars-Venus conjunction. He was the Mars, she was the Venus. Anytime you get a Mars-Venus conjunction between a man and a woman, doesn't matter, even if the man is the Venus and the woman is the Mars, doesn't matter. I guarantee you they'll have fireworks. They will have fireworks. They will have intense sexual chemistry, love, passion. It's exactly what they had. They probably had crazy, passionate love. But it's in Capricorn. And look how she's all tied up in there, right? Her Saturn is there. She wants commitment. She wants to kind of harness his Mars. And Brando just won't do it. He's not into it. She also has Mars in Capricorn. So she's got a Mars-Venus conjunction. Mercury is sitting right there between the two, right? It's the nervous system between the masculine and the feminine. And I bet you Rita Moreno could channel some energy She could, and you know what I loved about that interview? She's self-aware. She's self-aware. Very few people are truly self-aware. You know, self-awareness is not something everybody is truly capable of. You got to know what your limitations are. You got to know what, you know, I mean, we're all at a certain level with self-awareness. But the people who have a great amount of self-awareness are the ones who are probably more functional in the world, because they know what they can do and not do. And she clearly distributed that or exhibited that. Look at Sun Jupiter conjunction, bang, right on the money with the two. Sun Jupiter. There's a connection there. It's a big connection. He amplified her, right? That Jupiter amplified her. And what's going on with her sun? It goes right in to that sun trine, that moon trine, the Chiron trine, the trine with Neptune. Her Jupiter is conjunct his Neptune. I got to say, this, you know, if Brando could have had his shit together, this would have been a great love. A great love. That's why she didn't go away. Of course, there's the addiction piece to it. Of course, there's that. I mean, you know, she's kind of got that wired in her chart, kind of a wide opposition with Pluto, with her Venus. Certainly his Pluto's in there. You know, I mean, surprised he didn't die. That's called the Widowmaker, by the way. But there's that intensity, right? That intensity, that eighth house intensity with Pluto over there. And even with Juno, you know, which is new, like going through the ashes of the pain and coming back and thinking it'll be new, and you know, the sex that would resurrect them, you know, the makeup sex in this relationship, it's probably off the fucking charts. And she, you know, and Capricorn is enduring. That's the other thing with Capricorn. It's just enduring. He'll just hang in there and hang in there and hang in there. And even with, you know, she wanted to get married, right? She got pregnant with him. She aborted the kid. This is a very intense chart between two people. And, you know, look, her true node is conjuncting his Series. In a weird way, he was kind of protective of her. I think she wanted to have kids with him. She wanted to be the mother of his kids. You can see it here. But it with Uranus here, it's unconventional. Like there's tradition here, but also unconventionality. There's black moon. There's a lot of shit going on. This is a very complex relationship. But I can tell you right now, this is a great love. Painful, guarantee is painful, but this is a great love. And you can see the addiction with that eighth house, and there's Pluto and the Venus opposition. And her Chiron is in Taurus, and it's kind of getting close to his Venus, right? It wants to come up, and, you know, potentially there's some healing here. I don't know her time of birth, but it doesn't really matter because we're looking at her planets constellated with his. Look at Uranus. The guy couldn't settle down for shit. You know, Uranus conjunct is IC, could not settle down. This man was not wired for a traditional life. You know, he started this this turtle sanctuary in Tahiti. Brando was a trip, man. Brando was a total trip. There's no way that he could have. I think the woman he was with the longest was a Capricorn. She was born, I think it was January 6th. Interesting, huh? Sun square. She was French Polynesian. He met her on the set of a movie. I think he met her on that Napoleon movie that he did. Anyway, Brando. He was a wild one. Total wild one. And this, you know, if she came to me for astrological consultation with synastry, you know, I'd say to her, good luck. Good luck. Because you are locked into this thing. It has the potential for tremendous love, right? Tremendous chemistry. And there is so much pain here. And that's exactly what she experienced. Like, good luck. 8 years. It's a little over Saturn cycle. Seems like Brando's career and his love life is kind of dominated a bit by Saturn cycles. Anyway, this is not necessarily world-changing, paradigm-changing stuff, but it's interesting. It's very interesting, especially when you look at somebody as archetypal and as iconic as Brando and how he changes the world. You can just see that grand trine line right up there. Pluto, the resurrection with Neptune, the intense chemistry with Rita Moreno, the intense love, the intense passion, also the pain, the cruelty, right? It's all, you can see it all kind of baked in there. All right, I wanted to talk a little bit about Gen Z before we get out of here. I'm going to run this up to 10 o'clock tonight. So you get the show and you get the bonus. Oh, somebody's trying to call me. No, you can't call me now. Can't call me now. Can't call me now. You got the show going on. I want to talk a little bit about Gen Z. And I wanted to, who's this? Somebody's trying to call from Hawaii. Hello?
Hi, is this Robert?
Yeah, hi, it's Robert.
Hello, Robert. I just purchased a reading from you, and I'm just following the instructions.
That's awesome. Thank you for doing that. I just want to let you know that I'm streaming live right now, and there are thousands of people listening to our phone call.
Oh, that is hilarious.
Pretty funny, huh?
Okay, you know what? I will.
Do you have anything you want to say to
Actually,
do
go
you
ahead.
want to say something to the universe here while you're on the phone?
Hello. I am actually pretty pleasantly surprised because I'm calling from Honolulu, and right when you answered, I looked at the time and it's 4:44.
All right, here we go.
So
We got a good sync. All right, hey, listen, you're going to be up for a bit. I'll call you after the show, okay?
yes, thank you.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.
All right. Goodbye.
There we go. Breaking the fifth wall. She was persistent. I know she called in on that Skype number. Okay. Gen Z, very interested in astrology. And I was trying to get some numbers on Gen Z because it's, it's in the header here. And I wanted to show you something that was fascinating. I'm going to show you something that's not very fascinating. Here we go. We got that. Okay. All right. Gen Z's astrology obsession explained. Plus, how brands can use it. How brands can use it. Well, what's a brand? There's a lot of brands out there, aren't there? There's brands that sell you physical things. And then there's brands that sell you non-physical things. They sell you ideas. They sell you lifestyles. They sell you programming. Gen Z astrology fans are filling social media with memes about rising signs and planetary retrogrades. Here's what your brand needs to know. In 30 seconds, astrology, it's far from new. But a resurgence of interest in star charts and planetary retrogrades has seen a trending on social media where horoscopes were once consigned to the back of magazines. Gen Z's astrology obsession has pulled it into the foreground. So how can brands interact with this surge of Gen Z mysticism? Isn't that interesting? There's always a Mad Av aspect to these things, isn't there? Do you know your sun sign? How about which planets? But which of your signs is Neptune, Pluto? Gen Z does. In 2018, The Atlantic published the article, Why Are Millennials into Astrology?, in which they argued that the internet and specifically meme culture was behind the rise in the ancient practices' new popularity. And now, following in their footsteps, Gen Zers have developed a keen interest in astrology themselves. Well, that's not really why. There are reasons why, but The Atlantic doesn't get it. It's more accessible than ever, too, thanks to apps like CoStar or Horoscope app, which calculates a user's natal chart. Young people have the world of astrology at their fingertips. Finding out which zodiac sign is the rising sign, and that means it takes a matter of seconds. Why should brands care about this? Well, astrology has become a source of internet shorthand amongst Gen Zers. The trends it features are wide-reaching, and if your brand can understand and interact with them, you're on track to attract Gen Z audiences to your content. That said, here's everything you need to know about Gen Z astrology fans. Gen Z astrology, a primer. Astrology stems from around the 3rd millennium BC. The central premise is that the placement of the stars and the planets on the day of your birth, i.e. your star sign, impacts your character and behavior. In a similar vein, it suggests the continuing movement of celestial bodies affects events on Earth. You might have heard, for example, blaming the run of bad luck on Mercury being in retrograde. At Barbie, raise your hand if you've been personally victimized by hashtag Mercury retrograde, hashtag Barbie, hashtag astrology, music, original sound, Barbie. And while the younger generations continue to move away from organized religions, astrology easily slots into the empty space of a guiding belief system. By consulting their horoscopes or reading into the meanings behind the placement of their zodiac sign, Gen Z is able to glean advice and insight into themselves, their experiences, and the world around them. Do Gen Z really believe in astrology? The answer to this question is not completely cut and dry. On the one hand, Gen Zers are largely too logical to truly believe in everything astrology posits. A lot of their posts are tongue-in-cheek. That's Sagittarius, by the way, Pluto. With the understanding it's all pretty unlikely to mean anything. On the other hand, they also poke fun at their own tendency to believe it, and it suits them. At Racy, raise your hand if you've been personally victimized by hashtag Mercury retrograde, hashtag Barbie, hashtag astrology, original sound, Barbie. That doesn't say they're completely immune to placing trust in the stars. One survey found that nearly 40% of Gen Z believe that astrology can help them to make better financial decisions. And the astrology-specific platforms are rising in popularity. A CoStar representative told Time magazine that their app was downloaded every 3 to 4 seconds. I'm in the wrong fucking business, by the way. In New York Times article about Leos, an astrology dating app, Gen Zers likened horoscope-based dating predictions to the stock market. You predict what's going to happen based on trends. Then again, the majority of advice offered up is for interpretation rather than clear-cut answers. Astrology readings tend to function more like cryptic clues or personal insights. Leos co-founder Miriam Matherison says this is for educating yourself on a surface level. If you're looking for a relationship. On astrology TikTok, meanwhile, you'll find insights like this one from @HealingTouch47, who promises his Taurus followers that 2022 is a time to expose your true life's purpose. Well, that's easy. True node, right? There you go. Tapping into the Morse code of astrology. @HealingTouch 2047, 2022, your horoscope plus zodiac reading for all signs. Part 2, right? You get the meditation with natural sounds and music that closes your eyes. Red Blue Studio. So these people are all over this shit. Why is Gen Z obsessed with astrology? It's personalized. That's number 1. It's comforting. That's number 2. It's ripe for memes. That's number 3. Gen Z astrology, a sign of the times. You can understand a lot about Gen Z themselves by examining the trends they create and partake in. The popularity of astrology content, both serious and memed, points to the confusing times that Gen Z lives in. The idea of there being an innate order to the universe appeals to them. It's Pluto and Sagittarius, by the way. Given the chaos of the past few years, while the personality aspect of a zodiac sign taps into their enjoyment of tailored content. Boy, they just got it all figured out too, don't they? So clearly, this is a marketing service that is tapped into the idea that Gen Z likes astrology, and they do. They have Pluto in Sagittarius, Neptune in Aquarius, and Uranus in Aquarius, part of the early wave, part of the later wave. They have Uranus in Pisces and Neptune in Aquarius and Pluto in Sagittarius. Still outer planets. And I've talked to my son. He says girls his age are obsessed with astrology. He's told me that. When they ask him his sign and he says Pisces, I think he gets a myriad of responses. So I did a little bit of deep diving, and I found an article that has the biggest influencers, Gen Z influencers, astrologically on TikTok. I'm not going to go to that article. You can find it if you want. But something came across my radar. One of my peeps, a woman who studied with, she didn't really study with me. She got my course, and she's a very good astrologer. I'm really proud of her for a lot of reasons. And then she got her ASAR certificate. So she's a certified astrologer based on ASAR. So she started with me, and she's, got a piece of paper and whole 9 yards. I really, really like her. And I've, rooting her on and watching her build her life has been great. And then I wound up getting her a job with a service that I was kind of involved with a little bit. And some of the people that have worked with me and done astrological work with me, I turned them on to this service, and they did really well. They made money. I'm not going to talk about the service right now, but they made money, and they cut their teeth, and they were doing astrological readings for people 10 minutes and less. That was what the service was about. That service has changed. Where it started, when I kind of I wasn't really involved with it. I did an event with these people. I got along with them. They broke their product out at South by Southwest. So I was doing live readings for people over the course of a weekend. I got paid pretty well. It was cool. It was like, there was definitely big interest in astrology. I can tell you that right now. And then afterwards, I maintained some contact with the person who was sort of the head, right? I think head of marketing, but also one of the founders. So I sent people in his direction, and it was great. I learned a lot. They made money, good all the way around. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, the company got bought, and now they're headed in a different direction. And somebody sent something to me, this gal who I actually had a session with her last week, sent something to me that was very disturbing. And I am not going to reveal this person's name. Shit, I may not. I don't even want to show this person. Okay, I don't want to show this person. But this person is an astrological influencer. She's exactly what this article is talking about. And what she's influencing is dangerous. And she's using astrology to get into people, not just people, young women. And I'm going to tell you, I'm not going to tell you, I'm going to let her tell you what she's doing here. I'm not going to play her face. Here's what I don't want. I don't want a bunch of people, because you could find her. It wouldn't be that hard. I don't want a bunch of people going over to her website and doxing her. I don't want that to happen. Okay? Even though she deserves it, I think. She probably deserves it. I'm not advocating that. So I'm not going to show you her picture. But what I am going to do is I'm going to have you listen to what she has to say. It has nothing to do with astrology. Nothing. It is dangerous. It's absolutely dangerous. All right, let me find it. And I have to play this in a way that, okay, how do I do this? Give me a second. All right. All right, where are you? You should be on my desktop. Give me one sec. It's one of the reasons why I was a little on the tardy side today, because I was recording this thing. Let me see if I, because it's on here. Let me see if I can do this. There it is. All right. So I don't want you to see this person's face. How am I going to do this? Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to hold the microphone up here and play this. Just do this. If I don't do this, then what's going to happen is that you may be able to find out who this person is. This has nothing to do with astrology, and I think it's aberrant. And I'll tell you why in a second. You can figure it out on your own. Let's do this. Here we go. So.
Version. I have much more detailed stuff on my personal playlist. First, you're going to Google child-free binder, and you're going to click this one, No Regrets, No Regrets. They have a free resource called Build a Binder, which gives you data, all this stuff, pages and pages of information. You can fill out about your health information and why you don't want children. Then you're going to go to the child-free subreddit. They have a list of doctors that is crowdsourced that have done these procedures before. You're going to find a doctor in your network, and you're going to go to the doctor with your binder. You're going to bully your doctor. You're going to tell them you value your financial freedom, that you do not want to have biological children of your own. Once you get approved by your doctor, you're going to call your insurance company because there's a chance this procedure is free. First, you're going to get the billing codes from your doctor of the procedures they're going to do. Then you're going to ask your insurance company, billing code is this covered? Make note of when you had this conversation and who you talked to because your insurance company will like the trend book you over. Call it a surgery. Double check. So we'll confirm it's all covered. And then from there, it's really about choosing what you want. A lot of people get their tubes clamped or burned. This is reversible. If you change your mind, I get this out as useful self-injectomy, so that when I have my headphones, took out my fallopian tubes, 2 week recovery time, no regret a day. I hope this helps you guys, and stay safe.
All right. Did you catch that? So essentially, this is a TikTok astrological influencer. I did a search on Google for the most popular people on TikTok, astrologers. She showed up. And essentially what she's doing is she is telling young women, no rugrats, no regrets, and telling young women how to have either their tubes removed or tied. You're going to do this, you're going to do this, you're going to do this, you're going to do this. It's not like, if you were interested in doing this, you could do this if you wanted to. You could go here and you could look these things up and you could get a binder and you could put all your codes and your information. I mean, if you're interested, you can do this. That's not what she's saying. She's giving directives to young women and telling them to do this and to bully your insurance company, bully your doctor, take their names down because they will try to fuck you over. This is what's happening with astrology. This is an influencer. Has nothing to do with astrology. You know what that'd be like? That'd be like me telling people, well, here's how you make a 3D printed gun. Because I believe in the Second Amendment. Now, here's what you're going to do. You're going to go and buy a 3D printer. Here's the range of printers that you can afford. Now, this printer, if you use this code, you can get it at this price. Then what you're going to do is you're going to go here and you're going to download this manual, this program. Then you're going to go here and you're going to go get this plastic mold and you're going to insert it into your 3D printer and you're going to hook it up to your computer. And when it's all said and done, you'll have a 3D printed firearm. That's like me doing that. Do I do that? No. I don't do that. I don't tell people what the fuck to do. Okay? It has nothing to do with astrology. That has everything to do with programming and mind control. So now they're using astrology to get into the Gen Z kids' head because they like astrology and this person is an influencer. And it is bad fucking news. And it gives astrology a bad fucking name. That's what's going on. And that's just one video. So they set these people up to be influencers. And what do? They get their attention. They gain their trust. It's a buzz. There's no baseline. There's no baseline. There's no moral center. There's no God in there, right? There's no God. Oh, well, God, what the fuck are you talking about, God? That's an antiquated concept. No, it's not. I'm telling you right now, no, it's not. And that is, I'm just being straight up. That's evil. That's evil. I don't want to end on that, but I kind of need to go there. And this is, if you have a kid, if you have a girl, particularly, and by the way, this isn't just the sole domain of girls. I'll bet you young men have their own version of this, unfortunately. But if you have a young girl in your life, young woman in your life, could be a daughter, could be granddaughter, could be a niece, and they're into astrology, you got to let them know about what can happen when they open themselves to people who do not have their best interest in heart. That has nothing to do with astrology. Nothing. It has to do with social programming, and they're using astrology to get into the heads and the minds and the bodies of these young women. And it's not illegal, but it should be. It should be illegal. So here's the situation, right? This comes back to the thing, right? The thing. How strong do I feel about that? Where is that, on my morality meter? And who theoretically would I protect if I went all in on something like that? I don't know. It'd be interesting. I think astrologers need to start talking about this in general, right? Astrologers need to start talking about this in general so that we can clear the air that this is not something that astrologers do. They don't go in. Nobody should be. That's fucking medical advice. That is medical advice. I don't care. That is medical advice. So the astrological community, which I don't really, it's like for me, the astrological community, it's like me and David, sometimes Heather and Marina Darkstar. Like that's my astrological community and a few other people. But the astrological community needs to start talking about this. It's not acceptable. It's not an acceptable way. Now, she can be an individual who's an influencer and can talk about, look, I have my own show. I talk about shit on my other show, right? Is there anything different than that? I'm not telling anybody how to do things. I'm not instructing a young man how to cut his penis off. Okay. I'm not doing that. Well, here's what you want to do. First of all, you want to go to Illinois because the Pritzkers have set up the best systems available for you to fillet your sausage. And then once you're there, I don't do that shit. If anything, we take things apart. We try to look at them and have some humor and some insight. But it's nothing like that. It's apples and oranges. It's not even, it's fucking like, I don't know, okra and bananas. That's what that is. Anyway, I may follow up on this over the course of the week. Right? It's out there and we need to start talking about it. It's not cool. It's using a platform and it's using a very popular medium to get inside of people and start to turn their screws. And we got to be really, really aware of that. And I guarantee you at some point, somebody's going to be doing that and it's going to boomerang on them. It's just the way it is. And I may not have to do anything except play that, have it get on your radar, your attention. Sit back and watch how it resolves itself. At the very least, the astrological community needs to start talking about this because it is not good. Not good. All right. I'm out of here. I gotta call my client from Hawaii. Thanks for being here. Long show. When did we start? Around 6:40. So almost 10 hours. No, I'm sorry, almost 4 hours. Not quite. 3.5 hours. 3.5 hours. Good show. Thanks for being here. Use your head in order to discern what's real. Your heart to say what's possible. Nevada, you know how to get hold of me now. All right. Take care. Bye for now.